Yeah, so gotta go live. Little pre-show.
Yeah, I just this afternoon I watched the Saturday's Michigan State Wisconsin game because I didn't get to watch it really because we were preparing for our game. We kind of saw some of it,
Yeah,
and obviously I got to get ready for doing the Michigan State and Gopher game on Sunday. So, man, that goal by Caulfield was just stupid.
I had
just
right after that period, I walked up to the concourse and one of the Badger parents came over to me and said, "That's the best one he's done all year. He's had a lot of good ones, but
not even close.
The best all year."
Agreed, 1,000%. That was just there was no room, and he just put in one little.
Yeah,
I think Fred said he had 3 inches, and he put it in that spot.
Whew. I don't know if you saw there was the Badger videographer was right down there, like in the first row. So he had the angle to see.
Oh, really?
So the highlight video
from
they
the
put
other
out,
side.
No, right from the side he was shooting from that side. It was a great angle
from that side.
Yeah.
So awesome.
I mean, you could tell that there was maybe a couple inches more than would fit the puck, and he hit it. So
yeah,
and
I was sad.
He said after that, that most of those are going to go glassing out, and so it's kind of you're taking a chance. I mean, there's
and it
12
was
seconds left. Yeah, right.
Yeah, smart. I mean, yeah, and he was kind of backing up, like it was almost like a fadeaway shot.
Well,
he kind of
had
to turn.
His body. Yeah, right.
So that was not. I mean, yeah. It's funny is I think you were there that day. Thought we did that. We did the feature with him his freshman year, and the only one that got aired was the part in the locker room. Mm-hmm. But we did the other one where we put the camera on the net on top, and I was feeding him like one-timers and just talking to him. I'm like, that's what I want to see. I want to see like those pucks coming off his stick, going right and hitting the camera and stuff like that. But I don't know where that's somewhere in the archives of I don't know, BTN somewhere hidden away.
Be found and brought out.
That would have been fun to see.
Some later date. Yeah,
that'd be kind of cool. So, good luck finding it. Hey, buddy.
Oh man, yeah, we're just waiting for Veeks. He's probably on kid duty.
Right, bedtime story.
Young kids. It's just kind of how it works.
Yeah.
So Vigo's coming, Steve. He's coming. You already got people asking for Vigs in the chat. Just give it a minute.
Panic.
No panic. We've started the show without him before.
No, I know. I think we did last time, or
we may have.
Times this year. One of the times this year, he was running late. I think. So.
Okay, from the Wisconsin perspective, was Minnesota women screwed, Todd?
Yep.
That's what I thought.
You could ask my opinion too. Yeah, they got screwed.
I don't. I mean, I've gone over and people who blame the Duluth person, it has nothing to do with that person. That person would have voted for Minnesota. They can't vote on their own team.
What I would say though is I don't know. I haven't heard of anything in the room or on the call or anything, but maybe he could have been more forceful in saying, yes, the WCHA needs 4 teams instead of hockey's getting 3. So if that's what it came down to, they don't want to put 4 from one team out of 8 in the tournament. I think this is the year you say, well, screw that. I mean, the 4 best teams in the country are out of this league. They should all be in. So that was my thought.
I wasn't fond of, basically it was 4-1 in Eastern to Western representatives. The other Western representative was the Syracuse coach,
which is considered a Western league. Yeah.
Syracuse is east of Washington, D.C.
It's like how Air Force is considered playing in an Eastern league because they play in Atlantic hockey. So,
right.
I mean, that's
right. I mean, Alabama, Huntsville,
right. All these things that don't fit into our very specific borders that we've contrived here. Yeah.
I mean, it just
gives
Rutgers.
It just raises the old conspiracy of Eastern bias even more.
Well, yeah, it wouldn't be a college hockey season if we didn't have some Eastern bias discussions going on, right?
There's Viggs. What's up, kid?
How you doing, gentlemen?
Hey, Viggs.
Screw you, Vigo. Keeping me out of the Zoom today.
You know, when someone can't figure out how to put their name and it's in the instructions to the invite.
I like not having my name in there.
Yeah, well, see what happens.
Oh, that was funny. He wouldn't let me in like for 3 times. I kept trying to get in.
The funny thing is, he let me in once, and I had accidentally used my girlfriend's name.
Wow.
And he let me in. So maybe he just knew it was you.
I don't know.
Maybe
there were
Deutsch
a lot
is
of people.
grumpy.
There was a good 20 people on it, so I don't know. Maybe he thought people random were coming on or something. I don't know.
Well, there have been a lot of people on the Big Ten teleconferences this week because Megan Rowley sent out all the info. I found my way into a couple other folders of press conferences that I hadn't seen before.
Yeah,
that's good. That's good. Okay, well, just to let you know, because we have been live for a little while here, which you probably know. But let me start the process.
Yeah, bedtime was an adventure here. We'll just share with you.
They were up late with watching the Wild game, weren't they?
Yeah, a little bit of excitement here. It wasn't all Wild, but we had some Gopher basketball that was on, and distance learning day for the kids. So fired up. Tornado warnings abound.
Yeah, it's tornado warnings, and now we're getting snow. It's just really, we're going to be getting snow. It's goofy. It's goofy. So you guys about ready here?
Yep.
Let's do it.
All right. So let me get the recording part ready to go. All right. Let's start the show. This is the GPL podcast, sponsored by Jerry Peters and First Class Mortgage. Our expertise, your peace of mind. Visit us at firstclassmortgage.com. Now, here's Jupe and Vigo. Good evening and welcome to the GPL podcast, episode number 191. Well, it's league tournament time, and since it's league tournament time, we thought we'd bring in a couple staples as our guests. And we've got both Todd Milewski from the Wisconsin State Journal and Paul Caponigri from the Big Ten Network and former OSU Buckeye. Gentlemen, how are you?
It's playoff time.
Yeah.
Hey, we're great.
And we're hoping we get further in the playoffs this year than last year. Last year, we didn't get very far.
I was mildly chastised by Badger women's coach Mark Johnson for looking too far ahead on a Zoom earlier this week because he said, hey, we haven't gotten anywhere yet. Like, all right, knock on wood or whatever you want to knock on, but we still gotta ask you about it.
And Cappy, we really have to be careful because, we just had Clarkson drop out today. Denver's only bringing 16 players for their tournament. Skaters, I should say. Right. Anything could still happen here, Cappy.
I don't want to speak on it.
I think Cappy knows something.
No, I don't. I just, this has been a busy week and doing a lot of, preparation, which I love. This is great. But yeah, I'm just kind of knocking on wood every night. Things go. So, one day at a time.
Well, thanks for both of you joining us. And of course, Vigs, not the weekend Minnesota wanted. They thought they could wrap up the Big Ten regular season. Wisconsin took it right out from underneath them, all due to not a great game Friday night against the Michigan Wolverines. They started well, just couldn't get anything by Mr. Mann.
Yeah, I thought it was a little different than their series against Wisconsin, where they didn't impress, in the series against Notre Dame, where they just fell into traps that Notre Dame was setting for them. Is a little bit different game for them. Strauss-Mann played really well for Michigan and probably earned the W for the Wolverines and allowed Wisconsin that chance to win their first title in 21 years. but it wasn't a dud by the Gophers. I thought they still rallied in the third period, gave themselves a chance. And it's just one of those games where, it's just enough mistakes to cost them a win. And it was different kinds of mistakes. It was, taking a long shift. It was trying to create offense for too long and being tired. But it wasn't some of the mistakes we saw earlier in the year. Hopefully those are corrected. So it was a little something different, a new lesson for Bob to teach to his players.
Yeah, it wasn't fun. And, I've already saw some questions, why did the Big Ten use win percentage instead of point percentage? And people can complain all they want. This was decided back in November. It was decided the week before the season started. Hey, this is the way we're going to do it. If people didn't like it, they could have complained then. And that's just how it turns out. And that's kind of how it goes, Todd. It's too little 1/100 of a percentage point or whatever it was.
Yeah, I was wondering whether it was going to come. I mean, at certain points along the way, you're wondering whether there was going to be a difference between a winning percentage champion and a points percentage champion. And of course, there had to be, because that's the way the season's gone, right? This whole year has gone. And going back to November, I remember getting that email. I think it was the first day of the season. Everything came out that this is what we're using in case there's an uneven number of games being played. And I saw it, winning percentage, and I had to go back and make sure to check on that, because other leagues that had been putting things out were all points percentage. Atlantic Hockey was already saying, look, we're not even going to bother keeping points this year because we know there's going to be an uneven number of games. We're just going to start with points percentage and go from there. Hockey East comes up with this, formula that, they won't share with anyone and just says, trust us, this is the way that, these numbers shake out. They go a completely different route. But winning percentage was an interesting choice because it takes away, it basically puts it on a different, criteria. Overtime games don't count the same when you're talking winning percentage as they do in points or points percentage. So it was an interesting choice, but yeah, you're right. It was the choice they made. The coaches voted on that. That's it.
It was made a long time ago. So
right.
People complained about it, and of course now Motzko's like, oh, we should have gone the other way. But hey, they had the chance to figure that out.
He was joking. He was joking.
Of course,
he was deadpanning it. I do think this is one situation where the Big Ten kind of shoots itself in the foot. I have a feeling the people that were drafting these are not necessarily hockey people who are used to shootouts and overtimes and things like that. And you just didn't really think it was going to come up the way it did, and that there would be a difference between a points percentage and a win percentage. And it's just like your fantasy football league. When you've got your rules set, that's just the way you're going to go through the season. If you want to change it for future years, make those plans known early.
Now, Minnesota did come back the second game, and Cappy, you and where Chris Foster's were calling that game, probably from a closet in Chicago.
Closet, actually, ironically, closet in Madison, Wisconsin. Yes, for the second time. We were up there in November for Wisconsin, Penn State for a pair. But they didn't have anywhere in the studio in Chicago, and they didn't, I don't know, protocols right now at the University of Minnesota didn't want more people than, whatever. They didn't want to bring in people that weren't normally there. So our third option was, the place we had been before, to Rush Media in Madison, Wisconsin, where they pretty much have a setup just kind of like how we have in Chicago. I mean, some, your monitors and all that. And we actually got to be in the same room for this one, which was nice. We wouldn't have had that in Chicago, but they had proper protocols, or they've been doing it enough to now kind of have it set up more. And so, yeah, we were in Madison. We drove up to Madison to do the Gophers Michigan game in Minneapolis. So that, it's par for the course for this season, but hey, it worked out.
That is a bit goofy. But the key in these Minnesota played better. Minnesota played better that Saturday game than they did. Even though they had nothing to play for.
Right. And well, yeah, I mean, I think they're a mature, older team. You know, they reacted better. I mean, their team now. You watch them; they're so much better. They play so well and relaxed with a lead. It's like the norm. They got so used to it. And Friday, you even heard Bob in his comments. He didn't like the way the bench was. When they got down as much. But when Michigan tied it up again in the second period, and you're like, oh, where are we? What's going to happen next? But they power play was cool. They just felt like they were in control of the game. Calling it is Minnesota kind of had control of the game. Got a little dicey there at the end when Becker scored, but I think Minnesota answered nice for a team that didn't really have anything. They're probably going to be a number 1 seed, most likely in the tournament. The NCAAs. So I thought it was a sign of a mature team answering the bell. Didn't want to get swept at home for the 3rd time this season.
Ooh, that would have been ugly, Viggs, if they would have lost that second game.
Yeah, and I didn't see it quite as a meaningless game. I thought there were a lot of things at stake. Okay. There's Jack LaFontaine fighting for national awards. This isn't an individual award team, but that means something not only to him but to his teammates. I think Minnesota was fighting for seeding in the NCAAs. I'm not so sure as Cappy is about Minnesota's position for number 1 seed. I think they might be drifting into that 2 seed territory, especially if Wisconsin were to win the conference tournament. And third, I don't think you want Minnesota even going in that lower tier 2nd seed. You'd like to be that higher tier 2nd seed, so you can make the argument to the committee, don't send us to Fargo to play North Dakota in a regional. Send us somewhere else to play somebody who's not the number 1 overall seed. And I thought that was important for them.
On the flip side, Todd, your Saturday game was a lot more interesting, and it basically Mr. Hobie Baker bailed you out. He was so good again.
Well, don't call it me. I mean, I don't play for the team, but Cole Caulfield was. I mean, he scored 3 goals over the weekend, but I mean, kind of forget about the one he scored Friday because of the ones he scored Saturday being the first one just being ridiculous and the second one being so consequential that it gave him the lead. I mean, they're both consequential. I mean, he scores in the last 15 seconds of the second period to tie it. And it struck me along the way just how tight the Badgers were that whole game until Caulfield scored. And you could tell that was like the exhale. They were like, okay, let's just play now, because they knew everything that was on the line. They knew they could go out and win the championship. And they all said it afterward. They haven't had a lot of games like that with that kind of meaning in any of these seniors' careers at Wisconsin. I mean, think about these last 4 years. There hasn't been anything along those lines in terms of games with that level of importance. And so it was new for all of them. Now, guys like Caulfield and Holloway, they've just been in the World Junior, gold medal game. So obviously they have that kind of knowledge. That's a different plane. But for a lot of those guys, those shots were going a few feet wider than they normally would. Passes weren't crisp. And then Caulfield scores just out of nowhere, really hitting a
broken plate. Also, the puck's out right on his stick.
Yeah. And then they started the third period, and you could tell it felt like a different team, a team that was just more relaxed, seemed a little bit more like we'd seen in the last few weeks.
Cappy, do we just give the Hobie to Mr. Caulfield? I don't know if there's anyone else out there right now. Maybe the Mankato goalie, but
I mean, he's had a great year, but he's had that year the last 3, I think. And it's very hard. You don't see them play at all. You don't really get to see that league at all. It's kind of the one, and maybe the ECAC that doesn't get a lot of, but Hockey East is on Nesson all over the place right now. And then NCHC has a lot with CBS and, us with you guys, Fox Sports and Big Ten. You just don't, you almost feel like he's mythological, like he's really good. And, you know, I played for Mike Hastings, and I'm sure Mike Hastings would, you know, talk him up, and I'm sure he's great. I feel like the Richter is kind of taking the goalie. You'd have to like a 10 shutout kind of season, I think, now for a goalie to get the Hobie because of the Mike Richter award to an extent. So I don't know how Cole Caulfield doesn't win it. You know, Tufto at Quinnipiac's got a ton of assists, but man, it's just not as sexy as 25 goals in 28 games. 18 and 15 coming down the stretch, doing what he did, where a lot of people were watching on Saturday, I'm sure. It was a Hobie moment, and he might have more coming up, but that was a Hobie moment Saturday for sure.
Todd, are you a voter for that?
Not this year. No,
not this year.
A few years back, but no.
The reason I ask is that, you know, I'm just kind of curious when the vote would be due. Is it due like after tournaments or after, I should say after like league tournaments, or how does that work?
They do it the week after the regionals. If unless it's changed this year. Yeah. It's always been
so the final vote.
That Tuesday, I think, is the vote. They do a call with everyone that's on the committee, and then you vote after that.
Because, you know, Viggs, maybe if McKay obviously has a huge, you know, league tournament and then goes into the regional and knocks out of North Dakota or something, that could be his way of really stepping it up.
I think it's going to be really tough to give it to anybody other than Caulfield. I mean, we talk about this with all major awards. If you want a shot at those awards, you either need to have like back-to-back Hobie type worthy seasons in a row and elevate your program to that Power 5 type status. Like a Heisman winner coming from a group of 5 team would need to have back-to-back years, putting their team into New Year's Day bowls. You know, McKay probably should have had that kind of season last year to put himself in this conversation, but we didn't get to see it in the tournament. And then he would have to follow it up with the same kind of year this year, where it was almost like a no doubt that he was the top goalie leading his team to that top ranking. And we're just not going to see that this year because we don't have the out of conference stuff to compare it to.
Unless he shuts out the Badgers. He shuts out the Badgers in an NCAA tournament. That could be a big thing.
You can bring up some pretty old wounds with Badgers fans with that from 2000 when everyone thought Steve Reinprecht was going to win it, and he gets shut down by Mike Motto in the regional final, and there's your Hobie Baker winner the next week. So some wounds there you could open up real fast.
I just think the hype. Of course, McKay has been great, and so he had expectations, but there have not been many guys that have had like the hype of Cole Caulfield, because you just thought about that USA program class was so good, you know, and everyone obviously with Hughes first, and the way they won, and then they come to college, and then, you know, they're drafted first. You just had so much expectation, and then to come back to when a lot of people, like now it's almost just crazy for a guy to come back for his second year, you know, everyone else leaves and he comes back and he's so much better now, I think, because he looks like a grown man so quickly, you know, still got the baby face, but man, he just looks the part and looks like a leader and taking those steps. I just think he answered it, and I just don't see how it doesn't happen.
And you're probably 100% correct, but Viggs, like we can kind of mention, you know, with Ryan Patolny scoring 38 goals, you know, back in the mid 2000s, wasn't even a finalist for the Hobie.
Well, Johnny Pohl, when he led the team way back in 2001, 2002. So there have been players like that. I think it's a different deal with Caulfield because I think the hype was there coming into the season. True. Enough people have seen him play, and he is a complete player this year. You know, you've heard Granato talk about it and his availabilities the last couple of weeks. You know, this is a team that's learned from their mistakes last year. They have the right leadership. Caulfield's part of that, and he's just been a dynamic player to watch. And it's not just shooting; it's skating, it's defense, it's turnovers. He's an impressive player.
Indeed, he is. Yeah, I'm just trying to be devil's advocate here because obviously
you're so good at that. You're just so good.
Well, I just I've kind of felt bad for Mankato these past couple of years. They had a great team last year, taken out right from underneath them. One of the keys was their goalie then. He's doing it now, but like you said, Cappy, we don't see it. It's kind of a mythology out there. We're not seeing him on TV. We're not seeing anything like that. Not many people are I'm not watching the games on Flow. I'm guessing, Todd, you've watched quite a few games on Flow this year for the women's side.
Yeah, right.
But really, it's not if it's not visible, it's really hard to hype the kid up unless he just, shuts out the rest of the season.
And it's sad as every year is a new year, but they have, they're known now for not ever winning a game in the NCAA. So when you get, just like any other sport, that's a weaker conference, that's this and that. Well, you can obviously prove it. There's only those small moments when you can prove it in the NCAA tournament. And when you're number one seed almost every year and you don't have a win, that does not help your, arguments and type stuff like this. As unfair as that still might be, that's just the way it is.
It is unfortunate. It's just kind of the way it goes. Todd, we had a question for you actually earlier today.
Wow.
Tim Hapke, Wisconsin has 7 seniors. Do you have a feeling on any or how many might come back for an extra season? And he said it might also depend on how they do this year in the postseason.
Yeah, I feel like there's a few guys that might want to give it a go, but there's some guys that are, they're 24 and you feel like maybe they're ready to be done with college. I think of Ty Pelton-Bice, him being one of the older guys, and he didn't say it, but I kind of felt like he was leaning towards, this is probably it for me. Not a lot of them are guys that are going to have, real obvious pro. There's some drafted guys in there, but there aren't a whole lot of obvious pro looks for them. So maybe that does give them more of an opportunity to say, if there's a spot for me, I'll come back. And Granado has said that, we'd love to have them back. But when it comes down to it, you've got a class coming in that you've wanted to come in. You've promised them. There's been promises don't always come through at the end, but things have been laid out for them. You want them if they're coming in to play, and so it's going to be tough for everyone. This is not a one team thing. This is anyone that this door has been open to is going to have to deal with some issues if there are players that one want to come back and two that they say, we'll take you back.
And Viggs, basically most of Arizona State's coming back.
That's what it sounds like. Greg Powers in his end of the year presser just basically opened up and said, this is going to be free agency for college hockey. We could be adding guys could be leaving. Every program is going to have their own mess to deal with and try to figure out how to shuffle things around to make it fit. Bob's been pretty coy about what's going to happen at Minnesota. He's kind of hinted that it would be great if Jack LaFontaine decided to come back for another year. We'd be happy to have him, but he hasn't really been talking about other guys. And then this week on his radio show, he mentioned that Brandon McManus, age-wise, should be a junior and has just been a key player to their power play because he just gets it. He just knows where to be in space. So maybe he's a guy who could come back for Minnesota, but it is going to be the craziest offseason in college hockey that we've ever seen because it could be a lot of movement.
I'm looking forward to it.
I honestly, it depends on, a team like Wisconsin and Michigan. Are any of those guys going to come back? The young, not the seniors, but freshmen and sophomores, right? Yeah. And, hockey is in a good place compared to many other sports because every sport has this scenario. Hockey has the junior aspect where they already tell guys, hey, we might bring you in this year. We might bring you in the next year. It depends on who's here and who's not. At least hockey has that kind of, you want to call it minor leagues, whatever. But, if you're a football player, a basketball player, I guess you can get redshirted. But, hockey, you can at least go play another year of juniors if, say, they do want to bring Ty Pelton-Bice back. So at least they kind of have a little bit of a wiggle room, if you want to call it.
Todd, I got some people in chat saying that how fast is Cole Caulfield gone by the end of the season, but he's also saying that you may have said he's going to stay the rest of the academic year no matter what.
Well, the issue is, there's not that quick departure, especially when you're a team whose rights are owned by a Canadian team and you're playing in the US. The quarantine is going to be the issue this year. Now, I do feel like he'll be gone when the season is over. There's not a lot of question in my mind about that. But as opposed to Holloway, who's got a U.S. option to play in the AHL, I believe Edmonton's HLT or has a affiliate. I don't remember exactly what it is, but he could play somewhere in the U.S. as a pro and not have to quarantine, do all the crazy stuff that the hoops to jump through to play in Canada right away. Caulfield's going to have something to deal with there because the way that the border is, there's not a lot of wiggle room with that. So that throws a wrench into a lot of the plans of him, if he's done on a Saturday night, playing the Sunday or the Monday in Montreal. It's not going to happen like it has in years past, even though the schedules are a little bit different. You've got some more time to play with. I'm really curious how that's going to play out, but there's no doubt in my mind he's in his last games in college here. But
I guess Viggs, he could just sit out and join Montreal come playoff time too.
Could always happen because he's a drafted player, and those players can typically join the roster as they're eligible. So he's done a lot at the college level and worked on his game, and he's ready. He's ready to be on NHL power play right now. He's so good off the wall, so good changing into other spots on the power play and getting shots off. He's ready.
All right. Before we get to the actual tournament this year, we need to hear from our sponsor.
Hey, fellow GPLers, this is Jerry Peters from First Class Mortgage. Interest rates are near all-time lows and property values are on the rise. Lower your interest rate and remove monthly PMI at the same time to save thousands of dollars. Or use the equity in your home for debt consolidation and home improvement. The housing market is still hot, so make sure you're prepared by getting a pre-approval letter from me before you start shopping. Mention you heard about me on the GPL podcast and receive a $300 closing cost credit. Some restrictions do apply. Call me today at 612-940-3291 or visit firstclassmortgage.com to fill out a free online application. My NMLS number is 480200. First Class Mortgages is 322842. This is not an offer to lock into an interest rate agreement under Minnesota law. First Class Mortgage is an equal housing lender.
And of course, we always thank Jerry for sponsoring the GPL podcast. Well, Cappy, you're going to be a busy boy Sunday. You get to call 3 games with Ben Holden. I hope your voice holds up.
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, unfortunately, I've had some time to rest it. I think I've had 4 games canceled, this year due to the virus. But yeah, it's been a lot coming into the brain this week. I mean, I've seen everybody play. Fortunately, it's 6 teams, but I've seen everyone a lot, know all the players. But that's going to be fun. First time with Ben. Ben's awesome. Watched him a million times and I heard him with Fred a couple times this year. That's going to be a fun new experience, new energy in the booth with me. And yeah, I'm excited. I've never done 2 games in a day, let alone 3. So let's get it. Let's just do it.
Are you going to be at Notre Dame or are you going to be in the studio?
No, we will be there. We will be on site at all the games. I'm knocking on wood right now. I'm knocking all over. Yeah, all games on site. Fred and Dan will be there for the semi and the final. And I will be back in Chicago with Rick Pizzo on Monday and Tuesday, putting the band back together in the studio. We'll have some pregame and postgame half-hour shows going on Monday and Tuesday. So it should be fun.
And Viggs, when it comes to actual games for Minnesota, this actually didn't work out so bad for the fans. I mean, they'll play 3:00 or 3:30, whatever it is on Sunday, but then they play the night game on Monday if they get that far. And obviously That's a lot better than playing the 3:00 game or whatever on Monday.
Yeah, it'll be a good
Trying
TV
to see the
schedule
positive.
it'll be a good TV schedule for Minnesota. They've lucked out this year. We've had lots of fans be very critical of the TV package coverage for the Gophers. It's been great. Every game's been available, and it's going to continue with this event. I think it'll be interesting to see if there are some people there that aren't usually there. I know the coaches have been hinting that, there's going to be like a pass list for some parents and friends and family. Maybe there's the possibility of some more people being welcome into the building with the Big Ten's recent announcement saying they would allow capacity up to state guidelines for these events without specifically talking about the hockey tournament. So there could be some atmosphere in there, which we haven't seen in quite a while for college hockey.
And one thing that kind of throws a wrench into this, Todd, is that, Notre Dame is hosting, but Notre Dame has not done well at home this year. So it really could be anybody's tournament.
Yeah.
You never know. It's kind of enjoyable to see that.
You normally, get some people crying out when a tournament is at one school's building that, hey, this is unfair, home ice advantage. Not feeling that this year, other than having your own locker room and things like that. But I do buy into what Jeff Jackson has said all year, that they you don't miss the fans on the road, or you don't miss the atmosphere not being there on the road. Some people do, but you miss it at home. You kind of expect that environment. At least the returning players, that noise level, that and the fake noise doesn't work. I mean, it's good. It makes some noise, but it's not right. And it really felt like, I was noticing this Michigan State last week, that it felt like sitcom, like soundtrack,
laugh track.
Yeah, because you get they do the reactions. Somebody a goalie makes a save, there's a hit on the boards, there's a reaction that they play, but it's like a half a second too late. And so it's almost comical the way it's done, but that's getting off track. Us
get off track. We always get off track in the show. It's great.
Right. But no, I'm not expecting that home ice advantage to mean anything this week, next week.
Vigs, what are your initial thoughts? Minnesota's going to play Michigan State. We've got Notre Dame and Penn State, and then Cappy's team against the Michigan Wolverines.
I mean, I think we've got 3 pretty good games based on the way the season's gone. You've heard all the coaches pump the tires of Michigan State this week, saying if they were in a different conference, their record would be different. If they had the opportunity to play out of conference games, you wouldn't look at them the way you look at them after going through the Big Ten, where I think they're 1-9 in their last 5 weekends. And it's just been a tough stretch for them. But they are a big, strong team who's really good in the faceoff circle. And that's proven to be a challenge sometimes for Minnesota. So it's not a pushover game. And if Minnesota thinks they have a pushover game, we've got some film we could show them where they've struggled against Michigan State in the past. So I think it's a pretty good matchup for the Gophers. Michigan looks like a really talented team. I think in this kind of scenario, they're going to be tough to beat. And Penn State, I don't really know what to expect out of them. They just kind of have a lost season about them. So it's hard to see them doing well.
Now, Cappy, let's talk about that OSU and Michigan game, because just a couple weeks ago they split, didn't they?
Yeah.
Michigan, I still see as this team that's up and down, and Ohio State beat them one game and then they get. I mean, it's just, you never know with those two teams playing each other, what's going to happen.
Yeah, you don't. Well, Ohio State's been pretty.
They're all over the place too.
They've been consistently pretty good on Fridays or first game of the series, and then been dreadful the second. I mean, they had a 10-goal swing in their last. They beat Arizona State by 5 and then lost by 5 the next day. So, I think if that's their formula, they got a shot against Michigan because they play well that first game. So we'll see. I guess if I was gonna, you're gonna call me biased here. If I was gonna pick an upset of those 3 games, that would be the one, just based on recent way things have gone and way Michigan has been looked unbelievable at times, and then maybe just a little inconsistent because of youth.
And that's kind of what I was thinking, Todd, too, with Michigan and Ohio State. Yeah, if Michigan's good, Ohio State's done. But the inconsistency, you just never know, because they could win and then go play the Badgers or whatever. Or actually, guess you'd play. Actually, they would play us.
The Gophers.
They play the Gophers, wouldn't they? So it's just, Todd, it's like they're all over the place. It's really hard to predict that game.
I feel like Michigan and Ohio State are kind of in that same boat of, Michigan's just so young and counting on that youth for so much that's where you get those peaks and valleys. I think when those guys are playing at their best, I don't know if anyone beats them, because that's just the talent level they have.
Mm-hmm.
Ohio State and add a really good goalie to it. And when Mann's playing that well, one of the best in the league, maybe the best if all things are equal. But and Ohio State, I remember that series against Notre Dame a few weeks ago and watching that, and it's just like I didn't recognize any of what I've come to expect of Ohio State. I think it was the second game, it was an afternoon game, I think, and they were just getting beat down, and it was kind of stunning that, like, I know they lost a lot of players from last year and a lot of talent from last year, but Steve Rollick teams have this way of, regardless of the talent, they're going to play to a style. They're going to play with some gumption, and I just didn't see that. And that was a surprising thing to me. A week or two later, though, when they were here in Madison, one game was pretty awful. One game they were right in it. And so that is the MO with them this year, is that they bounce around from side to side and all over every lane on the highway to get to the finish line.
And Viggs, I see Brent commenting in the chat. He goes, personally, he thinks the Jekyll and Hyde team is Notre Dame. And I mean, I think they've been much better on the road than at home, but they are very kind of Jekyll and Hyde-ish as well.
I think this kind of applies to both Ohio State and Notre Dame, but I don't know if anyone out there listening or on the podcast has tried to coach while wearing a mask. It is very difficult on a hockey rink to communicate and teach and get everybody engaged. It's hard to read your players because you have a face that's covered with a mask. It's hard to see if they're picking it up, if they're connecting. And when you look at teams like Ohio State and Notre Dame, they are usually very well structured. They have been coached very well. And I think this kind of year that we're under is probably a challenge for those kinds of teams, because you're not doing all the team bonding, the team film work. The instructional sessions on the ice are probably a little discombobulated because there's confusion out there. And so I think that's probably had an impact on those two teams, because, Todd's right. When we look at those programs, you're expecting tight checking, well-coached players, and it's a little bit loose this year.
Well, personally, I think if Minnesota and Wisconsin does get to the final, there's your number one seed, whoever wins the game. Don't you agree? And they'll avoid going to Grand Forks, because I'm guessing the other team may end up going to Grand Forks, because,
Fargo.
I see. I'm sorry.
Feels like Grand Forks.
It does. It does. My mistake. Yes, Fargo. Because I do see Minnesota State and North Dakota probably winning their leagues. And then we're going to have that scenario, Cappy, where we're going to have 3 Western teams with number one seeds, and somebody's going to have to go east.
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad thing this year.
No,
honestly, the seeding thing, man. I don't know. This year is going to be. There's not that big drop down.
Mm-hmm.
Like 16 could be Notre Dame, or 15. There could be, if I think Notre Dame needs to win minimum one, probably two, get to the championship game at least. I think they get to the championship, they got a really good shot at getting in. But then where's Michigan? You get Michigan in as a 3 or maybe a 4. Maybe they're playing North Dakota. Who knows how these guys are. Michigan's a tricky one because in the poll, they're in the top 7, top 8, and they've stayed there. Even when they've lost games, everyone has voted them and kept them up there. Yet in the pairwise, they're like 20. So I could see that. There's some imbalances. Duluth, St. Cloud are higher in the pairwise. So where are they going to get seeded? And where, you know what I mean? Like they could be 4 seeds, and are they 4 seed? You know what I mean? It's a strange year. It's par for the course, and there's just a lot of questions about it.
And Vigs, we really still don't know what's going to happen with COVID. We just had a kind of bubble team. Clarkson gone. Anything could happen. You get somebody like a Denver now coming in with 16 skaters. CC's had problems in the past. It's literally going to be, you could have a team win a tournament and then all of a sudden they have COVID and all of a sudden they're gone. So there's just so much up in the air, Vigs.
Yeah, I think Clarkson calling it a season makes things maybe a little bit easier for some of this bubble watching going on because with only 4 teams in that league, if they got 2 bids, that would have been complicated for everything else. Now with them out, now you're probably looking at, how many teams can the WCHA can get in? I think a lot of Duluth fans were worried if their team lost to Western Michigan, would they be out for the NCHC? Would NCHC only get 3 teams in and Omaha would get in ahead of Duluth? So I think some of that maybe simplifies things and does create room for Notre Dame to get in. You look at their record against the top 3 in the Big Ten, and Jeff Jackson was laying this out this week is, you could probably consider Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan as at least a top 8 in the country. And Notre Dame kind of held their own against them. And if they do well in this tournament, it's a better argument for them to make. So there's a lot of interesting things here watching the tournament bids as they come down the stretch.
Todd, the Badgers won their first regular season league title in 21 years. They've had a lot of good teams. They just haven't been able to put it together. They get the bye. Just give us your initial thoughts on that. Just kind of the whole process here. I mean, they had to come from behind. They beat Minnesota. They passed Minnesota. They're resilient. These young kids are playing out of their minds now compared to previous seasons when they just couldn't quite get the young guys together. It's a whole different story for the Badgers right now.
Yeah, and it's hard to find a spot of the game that isn't going well right now. Power play is going great. Goaltending, you're throwing 2 guys out there that both seem like they're pretty confident and have had pretty good results lately. They've been a little banged up on defense. They played basically all of last weekend with 4D. And sprinkled in the 2 other guys that they had on the line chart a couple times here and there. But they still only gave up 1 goal. You can say, yeah, that's against Michigan State, a team that hasn't exactly, filled the net a lot of times this year. But still, that's asking a lot of guys to play, 28, 30, 32 minutes, whatever it ends up being on back-to-back nights. And they seem fine with it. They didn't show like they were having any problems with that. And one of them's a freshman. One of them's just getting basically his first year of playing a regular role. And then you've got 2 seniors. So now it sounds like they'll be getting back to a full 6 guys on D this weekend, getting Tyler Inamoto and Mike Borlicki back. But I just feel like they've put themselves in a really good position. And you get down to this point in the season and you just need to get there and see what happens because, the regular season championship is about that long, who can be better and not, fall off for long stretches of time. These are 1-game deals, 1 weekend to the next. And so this really changes the mentality of how you have to look at things, but I don't feel like they need to change a whole lot from what's been working for them lately, because it hasn't shown a whole lot of, sides that need correcting, I guess.
And Cappy, one thing that Vigo and I have talked about, and we probably talked with you, Pat, over the past, since the Big Ten started, is the Big Ten really needs a successful Minnesota, Michigan, and Wisconsin. And really, Wisconsin is really up their game this year, and it's really good for the conference as a whole, Cappy.
Oh, of course, they're the mother ships, so to speak, and they talk about it. And it's weird in basketball this year. There's no Duke, North Carolina, Kentucky up there. You got Michigan, Ohio State, Arkansas. It's weird like that. So it definitely helps. And with Wisconsin in general, I really think the best, obviously was not a good thing, but the best thing for them was when early in the year when they had lost guys, Holloway left, they had COVID issues with Baker, and a ton of guys were out. They were down. They weren't dressing, I don't think, the full amount of guys. And they had guys like Brock Caulfield step up, Jack Gorniak. They were getting chances what most likely they would have never got early in the year. And I think those guys gained confidence in their game. They gained confidence from the coaching staff to play in certain situations that they probably would never have gotten a chance to. And it's made their team deeper and not just been all about Caulfield and Holloway. And it's made them a better all-around team. And it's built up, as you can see, as they came on late in the season.
It's definitely an exciting time, Vigs. It's, when I see Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota in the top 10 of the country, it gets me excited again, because when we started this thing, it was Minnesota. Michigan had a down time. Wisconsin was having a down time. And everyone's like, oh, Big Ten, they stink. It wasn't really the truth, but you kind of need the big kids on the block to be good at times.
And I think when you make a coaching change in college hockey these days, it takes a couple of years to figure it out, because you're coming into a program where the roster is a little broken, and you're coming into a sport where kids commit at the age of 16 or 15. And so the next 4 or 5 years of recruiting classes are often already kind of spoken for, and it's hard to violate that gentleman's agreement and get those guys to flip. It does happen in a couple of cases there, but usually it's the player wanting to make a move more than the coach. So I think it's very complicated to turn over a roster, and it took Granato a while to do that. And he's finally done it. I was not a believer in what he was doing last year when I saw all the chaos going on in the program and some of the coverage about the players and their attitudes toward the program, but he's figured it out. I think Michigan is still kind of on the cusp of how to figure this out. You could hear Mel Pearson this week talking about, even though it's a COVID year and the scouts and everybody isn't around the locker room after games and stuff, there's still a lot of conflict. And who are you playing for? Are you playing for the crest on the front of your jersey, or are you playing for the scouts in the stands? And so I think that's a really tricky thing to balance in college hockey. And if these coaches and programs can figure it out, the league's going to be really strong for a couple of years here, at least.
All right, well, let's go around the table here. Let's get your predictions for the tournament. We're going to start with you, Cappy. I know you're like, oh,
I have no prediction. No.
Oh, come on. You've got something. Just Ohio State. Woohoo.
Man, you want like who's going to win it?
Let's pick your championship game.
Pick your championship game. I am. Oh, you guys. I'm going to go with a. Oh boy, I could get burned for this. I'm going to go with a Notre Dame and Minnesota championship game. And that is.
How do you feel about that, Todd?
That is not so. That is. I mean, they could end up losing to Penn State, but I don't know. Notre Dame.
We never know.
Track record.
Right. Tournaments like this are totally different.
Notre Dame's track record in the playoffs is
yes,
is what it is. Jeff Jackson gets his teams to peak at the end. I just, I don't know. Wisconsin is peaking too, but this Notre Dame is playing for their season if they get to that game against Wisconsin, whereas Wisconsin is playing, yes, for a Big Ten title again and maybe a number one seed, but it's not desperation. And I just think Jeff Jackson has that knack sometimes.
We've seen that with a couple of Minnesota teams in the past, where they'll have won the regular season they get to the conference tournament and they're playing against somebody hungry. They fall behind and they just kind of pack it in. That's been a recipe that happens in these conference tournaments a lot. I think Cappy's right where Notre Dame's a dangerous team this weekend.
All right, Todd, let's get your rebuttal.
Well, I can't rebut that. That's a good argument. I mean, I don't see anything wrong with that, but I am going to say just because of, I've been waiting to cover this game for, well, I haven't been working for this long, but 31 years since the Gophers and the Badgers last played for a championship. Think about 31 years since they played for a trophy. And that's, I thought it was going to happen in 2017, but the Penn State beat the Gophers in the semis and in overtime, right? They won overtime games back to back.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
I can't remember, but maybe this is the year. I don't know. That's what I'm thinking anyway.
What do you think, Viggs?
I've laid out a lot of potential arguments about how this weekend could go, but I do think it is going to be a Wisconsin-Minnesota final. I think it's going to go by chalk. I think these are two elite programs this year who have a lot of depth, especially down the middle. Wisconsin, now that they have their centers back humming, they are tough to play against. Minnesota, they've got 5 centers who can play down the middle. If they could get Walker going, Minnesota would be, I think, talent-wise equal to Wisconsin and Michigan, but he seems to be stuck in a rut. And so I think that's holding the team back a little bit. And what Bob has done on the power play is maybe relieve some of the pressure on him to produce offensively, by moving Reedy that half wall and freeing up Walker to be kind of more in space in the power play and be more of a breakout guy. Maybe that relieves some of the pressure on him and he starts to produce a little bit. But I do think it's going to be a Minnesota-Wisconsin final.
I'm going to agree with that. I think it's going to be Minnesota.
Ooh, just final. Put my little green box that's not the same as everyone else. I should have went last, and then I would have been like, okay, you guys all pick the same, so I'm going to pick.
But this. I'm going to actually pick Wisconsin winning. I think what's going to happen is that the Wisconsin will win. Minnesota will play them sometime in the NCAA tournament on a normal ice sheet, and it'll be a little bit different outcome because I believe Notre Dame is 95 wide. It's still a pretty big sheet of ice.
90, I thought, but
I just
somewhere in that range.
So maybe it's
big when you.
I just like how much further Minnesota goes. I'd like them getting better because the ice sheet's going to keep shrinking on them, and they've done really. Well, they haven't lost a game on standard ice sheet this year.
Well, and I don't want to break any secret news here, but one of the coaches for Minnesota might have said something at one point that didn't want it to be told, but his team, he likes his team on small sheet. He'd rather be playing the old Sioux City barn that was 80 by 120. But I won't name any names on that.
Do we need to go to overtime real quick? Just emergency overtime. Right. I know. So I just, it's okay. Maybe it's 90. So it could be a really good game, boy. But I just like Minnesota's chances as they move on further into the postseason. Cause after the Big Ten tournament, it's all standard sheets of ice. V's, we've talked about that it seems like the Minnesota can really lock down teams defensively on a standard sheet of ice, which we've seen them struggle at Mariucci with so much, but it's a pond out there. It's a huge lake.
I think it slows the game down for Minnesota sometimes, and especially when they fall behind, they struggle to push the pace. For whatever reason, the bigger ice, the width, the game slows down for them, and they don't force the action. On the power play, they're more content to wait out a perfect play rather than just force it to the net and create chaos, which is when McLaughlin and Walker really flourish. Like when they get a penalty kill running around and out of shape, that's when they're dangerous. So I think sometimes they struggle on the bigger sheet. We'll see what happens. I'm not as confident in Minnesota advancing this year in the postseason for whatever reason. how they've played from behind makes me a little nervous. Hearing all the talk about them discuss how the energy is on the bench when things aren't going well, those are red flags for me. And you hear the opposite in Wisconsin about what a great bench they have, what a great leadership they have. Having Cole Caulfield probably makes that a lot easier because he'll take care of his business. Minnesota doesn't have that kind of player.
When's the last time they got out of a regional that wasn't in Minnesota? 10 years at least. It's been a long time. Maybe
a while.
Does it go back to maybe even 2003? I mean, it goes back a long ways where, it was a time there, they had regionals at Mariucci, a couple of them. One of them they didn't get to, but they had regionals at the X. All the other regionals they have not gotten out of since.
Probably not since they got out of campus sites.
As I remember, they got out of Michigan once. That was 2002. Boy, so that's kind of still a ghost. And then you've got Motzko's 5-7 record at St. Cloud, and took them a while to get a win. So you never know.
Yeah. I like them in the NCAA because of LaFontaine. I think goaltending will be the most important thing in hockey, and they got one. And I don't want to say he's going to steal a game, but I don't think he's going to give up that goal. Mm-hmm. I think he's proven not to do that. So that's something to look for.
Actually, somebody actually had put this on my site earlier this week. I forgot to ask you, Cabby, but now we got Tom Welty asking, will there be more TV timeouts? Will the TV timeouts rules change for the Big Ten tournament this weekend? Obviously, this whole year they've been doing the 10-minute mark. Do we know if that's going to change?
You know what? I don't think so. They've loved the flow of these games and getting them done quick. And I know on Sunday, they have the NCAA selection show at 5:30 between game 2 and game 3. And they want to make sure that or 6 o'clock, maybe it's an hour. And I know they want that to flow. So they've been loving the game. College basketball is 2 hours, and that's what they know. So like hockey being 2:20 and then 2:40 when it goes to overtime and shootout. Obviously,
basketball is never 2 hours anymore. I mean,
now that they're reviewing every play at the end. Yeah. Now that they're reviewing every play, every touch on it.
Cappy, every Gopher fan watching this.
Get on that.
Every Gopher fan watching this goes, if there's a basketball game on before the Gophers, you better get your streaming set up and figured out ahead of time because there's going to be a delay. And I'm sure Rick Pizzo knows because we point everyone to tweet at him when it happens.
Hey,
I love that Rick Pizzo. He's got such a good sense of humor about it. We've been doing it for years, and he just blames himself now.
hey, if Michigan State would have somehow tied Wisconsin on Saturday, that game was going to get delayed, or it was going to not. We were going to start without you. So I'm just saying, yes, basketball's been the problem most of the time, but that could have happened Saturday. But back to the question, I think they're going to stick with the program.
Okay.
At least on Sunday for sure. I don't see why they would change it. They're liking the way it is.
Todd, do we know when we're going to hear about the all Big Ten teams?
Finalists are supposed to be coming out tomorrow, Thursday. Finalists for some of the awards, right?
Voting is closed.
Voting has been done, correct. And the awards are scheduled to be announced next Wednesday, so day after the championship game.
And in a personal note, I'd like to thank you for voting Mike Crowley the best player of the 90s.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
he was my guy.
I was thinking of you the whole time. No.
Sorry, I'm a little biased, but he was a special player. I'm sorry, he just was. So
can we go back into the archives to see how many Mike Crowley references or how many episodes have had a Mike Crowley reference over the years?
I could do it every
week. Do you have
week
transcripts? Yeah, I know.
No. Oh. I'll let you go back and listen to every single podcast, and we'll let you find it.
Off-season project. There you go.
Yeah, bingo card for the podcast. Crowley be the free space.
Oh boy. I think we should save that for overtime. Drinking bingo card for overtime. Any other thoughts, Vigs? It's a big weekend. It's going to be fun. I kind of like this condensed thing.
Big weekend. It should be pretty good hockey down that the Big Ten has got things figured out with Minnesota, Michigan, Wisconsin. I think there's a lot at stake here still for seeding with teams and how they perform. Notre Dame's playing for their lives. I think Minnesota, Wisconsin are playing for a 1 seed. Michigan playing for a 2 or 3 seed. So there's a lot at stake for these teams right now.
Cappy, and you just never know. If a team above drops out, it could even give a Notre Dame, they might not think they're going to make it. And all of a sudden, some other team drops out. So like Vigo said, it's critical.
Yeah. And I guess I had my own different final thought here. Kind of goes with the TV thing, but I think the tournament is set up perfectly timing wise to get good viewership. The basketball is pretty much over. You got a championship game. That's it. And it's on obviously a different network. And you have Sunday, 3 games of hockey. There's, a few other basketball things going on. But then you have Monday and Tuesday. There's no basketball. There's no,
there's other hockey, the NCHC, though. Well,
and great. That's great. And I think they're staggered a little, like seven ones, they're half hour separated, I believe. In the start, but that's great. I'd rather be fighting with hockey viewers. Maybe a lot of people have 2 TVs or they have their computer going and then they have their TV. Obviously I don't think we're going to be in this situation of going into 3-day, who knows what they might decide for the future in terms of Big Ten tournament, but in terms of dates, if they were going to do it this way in the future, these are the dates to do it, and attendance. I don't know if that's going to, obviously there's nothing with that this year, but I just think having that Sunday, Monday, Tuesday of this time, because I've been in that room at the studios and in the network, and it's all about basketball. And it's NCAA March Madness. That's what it is. But that's what you're going up against that next weekend. So I just think timing wise of putting it on this Sunday, Monday, Tuesday is as good as you can do right now.
I'm with you 100% on that. I'm looking forward to it. And Todd, you'll be able to just sit back and relax on Sunday and just watch some hockey, won't you?
That's the plan. Hopefully we'll be doing it in person. I'm planning on going. So I
mean, if you're there, that's even better, man.
Yeah, that's the plan. I mean, I haven't had
just have to recognize you through your mask.
Right. Yeah. I'll be in my plexiglass booth somewhere where they've set us off to the side. But yeah, I mean, it's like the old days of just, plopping down and watching hockey, and we haven't had those chances this year, obviously. So, yeah, that the 3 games in a day on Sunday will be fun. Is anyone else doing anything? I don't think anyone else is doing anything like that as far as the leagues, are they? Because like other leagues are doing things at different places for their earlier rounds. So.
Well, NCHC split their days.
Right. They're 2 Friday, 2 Saturday. Yeah.
And then a day off, and then their semifinals.
And the women's tournament too is doing 2 quarterfinals Monday, 2 quarterfinals Tuesday, and then going to Frozen Four. So it's
going to be fun. Guys. It's going to be fun.
Let's hope we don't get any, fog issues or anything like that. Playing things in
zip it.
South Bend.
I don't think I don't have to go to worry about that at Compton. That's for sure.
No.
Well, that's going to do it for this GPL podcast. Of course, we thank Todd and Paul for joining us this week. We'll be taking the week off. We won't be back next week because we figured let's just wait until we hear what's going on with the NCAA tournament first. But we'll be back and recap the Big Ten tournament and hopefully preview NCAA tournament. For those of you watching live, stay tuned for some overtime. For the rest of you, we'll be back in 2 weeks. Thanks for listening. Okie dokie.
Nice.
All right, Biggs. I think I saw what was the winner, but hold on. Let me go up to the speaker view so you can say something and show us what the beverage of the week is.
So it looks like by the poll results, I can figure it out here. We got a Surly, Give the Devil His Due.
Nice.
It's a double dry hopped, hazy, double India Pale Ale, 9.3% from Surly Brewing Company. Big guy.
I think the can alone won that. Like the visual. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a good visual. I had a Madison beer on my poll this week, Todd, just for your potential followers.
Yes.
Who wanted to piggyback on me from Forager, which is Madison. It
Look at that
doesn't pour very
professional
hazy.
pour.
Doesn't
Oh,
pour very
good.
hazy, but good head. Smells great.
Vigs, do you go to? Is there a place you have that you can go and get like individual like single, and fill up like a 6-pack with 6 different kind of beers, stuff like that?
Yep, I've got a couple. There's
Okay.
some that they have them in like a big cooler, like it's like a
Right.
supermarket where they have all these
Right.
singles out that you can grab. Because some places they have these shelfies and they're warm. I don't trust
Right.
that for my craft brew. If I do go with this single pack kind of thing, that's where I go. So if you need tips when
Okay.
you're in town, I can get you a
Yeah.
good place to go get. For the holidays, I did an advent calendar. I bought 24 beers by singles, and I sent them to my in-laws and myself. And every day we had a text thread with a beer tasting.
God bless you and Pizzo with your beer. It's just not my thing. So
I'm with you. I'm not a beer guy at all.
I'll appreciate your love for that. I appreciate that, but that's just not my thing.
The craft, I enjoy it. So
Oh yeah, no doubt.
I will not be putting down an entire bottle of wine tonight. I did that a few weeks ago.
What happened to you? Was it last week and you just did something and you were crying about it on Twitter? What happened? There was somebody you blamed the alcohol. You said you blamed that you were.
I always blame the alcohol. Friday night.
Okay.
Oh, you know what? Wait a minute.
There was something on Twitter
last week while drinking. I tweeted out that I thought that the King character from Hamilton was the best part of the show.
Oh yes, that was it. I think it was about Hamilton.
And then we find out
random thoughts.
Viggs has a musical background, doesn't he?
Yeah, I was a Renaissance guy. I gave up playing team sports in the spring so I could do the upper school musical in high school. So I did
Nice.
Bye Bye Birdie. I did Oklahoma. Did Guys and Dolls. Did Into the Woods. Did The Music Man.
Wow.
So that was one of my things I did in high school. So
that's impressive.
Wow.
Football, hockey, and the musical.
Hey, that's a variety right there.
It's a well-rounded guy.
That is
Renaissance. Yep.
All right. So who are you in The Music Man?
The Music Man. I was basically that was my 8th grade year, and so I was just kind of like getting into the cast
ensemble.
Yeah. So okay. I was an 8th grader, so it was kind of like a bit part for me, just trying to feel my way. At that point, I was still trying to play baseball. And so I don't think either the baseball coach or the director were too happy with me trying to do both.
So, sports getting in the way.
Yeah. I mean, I played football at St. Olaf, and we had a couple of people who tried to be in the St. Olaf choir and do football. And the football coach was kind of like, okay, whatever works. And the choir director was like, no, you must choose. It's either the Ole choir or, that barbarian game of football that you want to play. So I think that similar things for me in high school with the music directors. But my big one was I was a prince in Into the Woods. So I was Rapunzel's prince, if you're familiar with that one. Great music in that musical. They made a movie a couple of years ago with like Chris Pine. I mean, the same. Typecasting.
Rapunzel, wasn't that Tangled? That was
that's Disney. That's a Disney movie, but Into the Woods is like Jack and the Beanstalk, Rapunzel, Snow White, all kind of mixed into one with an evil witch, and they all kind of intermingle with each other. It's a good one.
The things we're learning about Vigo.
Yeah.
Wow.
Opening up Pandora's box here.
Apparently.
Yeah, one.
All I said was that, I like was it Groff? What's his
He's also in Frozen.
Yeah, he's in Frozen. I mean, he's really good. I just like the kind of the comedy relief of him coming in with a song that was completely different than the rest of the show. And then I was a big David Diggs guy. I like him as well. I think he's outstanding. But for musicals, it was still a struggle for me, Viggs.
It's okay.
It came out on Disney Plus. The girlfriend's like, "Hey, let's watch." I'm like, "Okay." I'm turning on the sound system. It sounded great. It was really well done. It's just not my thing, except for a couple pieces that I really liked. So, and Todd's musical talent is okay. Todd, what musical instrument did you play growing up?
I played clarinet after playing saxophone. I was the drum major in our high school band senior year.
Wow.
I do come from a musical background. My dad is still in a rock band.
Oh my.
Wow. What kind of rock music is he?
British Invasion, kind of 60s.
Okay.
I mean, they were fairly well known in the Milwaukee area in the 60s. Cut a couple of records. And a lot of the original guys decided they wanted to get back together about 10, 12 years ago. And so they still play occasional gigs at bars, and, obviously it hasn't, not this last year, but yeah, they like doing it. So I do have, yes, the music is in me.
No.
Wow. Yeah. I did concert choir and the whole bit.
Not me.
Cappy, what about you? No.
None.
Did they make you do at least an instrument or sing choir or something like that, Paul?
No. I think
Really?
I tried one saxophone lesson and I got impatient because I was so bad. It was like, it looked like such a mountainous task to try to figure that out that I was like, I'm out. Back to baseball and hockey. I think it was like 9 maybe. Yeah, no, didn't. If anything, I would have loved to learn the guitar as a child.
See, I played,
I don't know.
I played percussion through 2 years of college, so I went for a while doing all that stuff. It was fun to travel, though. You get to travel when you play music, so I enjoyed that.
I was just gonna go back to hockey, and I just I've been looking at the stats as closely as. But does Michigan State have the worst power play in the history of college hockey?
It's not good. I remember people when Minnesota.
Is it very wild? Like
3 out of 58.
Yeah,
3 out of 58.
In the
even again 5.1%.
Wait, so that's the entire season, or
Big Ten and 22 games of Big Ten hockey.
Wow.
I don't know how they did against Arizona State, but
wait, didn't they get a power play goal against Wisconsin? Was one of them a goal?
No,
power play?
I don't. No. The one goal, that one goal, no.
Okay.
It was 5-5.
Okay.
No.
Wow.
Minnesota
should talk though, because they started out really well, killing and playing, and they have not done much since then, Viggs.
I mean, they still have power play goal 17 on the year. So, like,
had a nice one Saturday. Big
I think Cole Caulfield's got like 17, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's got a lot. Wisconsin's power play is at a whole different level. But I think with Reedy on the half wall, I think that helped them. They got stuck so many times when they had Walker and Myers kind of, having that brain freeze on the power play. It just slowed things down. So maybe they'll have a different look here going forward.
Man, I remember watching that first time early in the season. I'm like, Wisconsin's got 5 forwards out there. And it has looked so damn good all year. Mm-hmm. I can't remember one time thinking, oh no, why did they need a defenseman? Not like once.
Right.
Where I was like, holy cow, they got caught and it's looked bad. And it's those 3 guys just go all over and it's whoa.
Yeah, I mean, Weissbach.
Refresh my drink here.
I do feel like Weissbach is kind of him.
He looks
him
like
growing
he
into that role. Yeah, he looks like he could be at least comfortable enough to, if it's going to be end up being a one-on-one with somebody coming the other way, he could handle himself. And so that's because I don't think Granato was convinced of that being the right option for him at the start of the year or before the start of the season.
I'm sure. I mean, it's always a nerve thing, right? To throw 5 forwards out there, no matter what, because is anyone going to think about defense at any point? And they're going to have 2-on-0 breakaways the other way, kind of thing.
That makes me think I should go and count how many shots they've given up during their power plays, just as a
sure, something to do on the ride to Chicago, to Notre Dame.
Yeah,
because Bob did that with Tommy Novak. He put him back at the point just because he couldn't find a guy who could distribute the puck with his head up and be in the right spot and rotate over if anybody needed to shift under pressure. And it worked out really well for them too down the stretch.
Did they have a defenseman on that though? Didn't they have a guy on the right side though, or on the offside?
Yep, they had an offside
defenseman though. So he still had a defenseman out
D.
there.
Yeah, but he didn't play like a D all the time.
Sure. I just think the way that Wisconsin's doing it, those guys go all, like they've made it. They're consistently inconsistent where they're not obvious. Like, okay, it's an umbrella and these 3 guys are going to be in their spots. They go all over and it looks controlled and sync. It's other teams are starting to do that, but with defensemen included, I just think it's remarkable how they've been able to do it with forwards and not look risky. I mean, heck, they were up 2-1 with 8 minutes left in the game to win the Big Ten. They were on a power play, and he just threw them out there. Didn't even think twice about it. He threw the 5 out. They didn't score, but clearly huge confidence in throwing that out there, not worrying about it.
If you can have your 2 players on the sides be able to switch spots, go from half wall to the point down to the side of the net. If you can do that, you can be a 31% power play. Because you just have a hard time defending that because you're always going to get taken out of your shape from a box to a diamond to, whatever you're trying to do. It's hard to do that against a fluid unit.
So how do you stop it, Viggs?
Don't let them get in the zone. You really pressure them through the neutral zone. Like you force them to make mistakes and get caught in the neutral zone. That's your best.
That was the thing on Saturday when Michigan State actually was doing pretty well with it for a while. It was tough for them to get one. They won the face-offs, the end zone
which
face-offs.
They're good at.
So you're gonna win. You win those. That's 15 seconds. So everything adds up. Take away some of the time that they have, right? So if you win 3 face-offs on a PK, that's a pretty good chunk of time. Right. But then, the neutral zone, they clogged it up really well and it had 4 guys across at the blue line, essentially, to at one point to say, do whatever you're going to do. You're not getting in with speed anyway.
Yeah, I mean, you get that one guy who can force the puck to one side of the ice, and then you do not let it get to the other side, and you just funnel it at the blue line. You make them chip it. And hopefully you have a goalie who can play the puck, or you can have one of the defensemen who can win the race back, and at least you have a fighting chance.
Yeah, they just have so much speed.
Just be super disciplined. Can't take any penalties.
Yeah, I mean,
and I think this is where the Badgers are going to have a great advantage in the NCAA tournament because we know how teams get a lot more penalized, and this could be a real big advantage for Wisconsin come NCAA tournament. You get a referee from the ECAC or something like that.
And I do kind of wonder, that's something that really hasn't been brought up. Are they going to regionalize refereeing for the tournament where, the Eastern regionals will have Eastern refs and the Western regionals will have NCHC, WCHA, Big Ten? I haven't heard anything about that. So I don't know if that's really come up as an idea or a plan yet. I'm sure it's a plan.
I'm surprised they didn't aren't doing a bubble for the NCAA tournament for the first 2 rounds, or partially because of that. They might have to be forced to bring in Big Ten. I don't know. The NCHC referees in Fargo because they're close and they don't want the health issues or something. I remember last when we talked in January, we were kind of like, where would they put a bubble if they were going to do that for the NCAA? So I was a little shocked that they went with the regionals.
Yeah, boy.
I think just with hockey in the locker rooms and the teams needing so much space and the practice time, I think it's hard to do a bubble.
True.
Maybe
it's kind of a mess. The women's tournament is kind of a mess in terms of scheduling.
8 teams.
Yeah, I mean, even with spreading it out over spreading the first round out over 2 days, you've got teams like Wisconsin won't get on the game ice until warm up before their quarterfinal game because their practice is out at the Mercyhurst rink. And they play a 1 o'clock game. They don't want the morning skate that they would be given at 8 a.m. So it's just one of those things you have to, deal with, I guess, this year.
I still think so much is up in the air. I mean,
we
could have another team go out, like say all of a sudden, Michigan can't get to the Big Ten tournament. They're done for their season. I mean, so all of a sudden you're like, there's just so much that could still happen in these next 2 weeks. It's just,
I think
it's a day by day thing.
I may have said this last time I was on with you guys, but what are the odds that you're going to be able to play 15 games without an interruption? Just looking at how many games have had to be disrupted every weekend in college hockey this year. I just feel like it'll almost be a miracle if this goes off without someone having an issue. I mean, whether it's, an issue that forces them to completely drop out, maybe not, but like you're seeing with Denver now, losing a bunch of guys.
Lose your top players, lose your goalie, or
right. And that's the thing. If you lose a couple goalies and you're down to one goalie, you can't go.
Play. They'll have to. That's what happened to Clarkson. There's like, hey, our goalies are done. We're done.
It was why we talked to Brian Tripp from Penn State this week to kind of get a feel like what happened there exactly. They were down and they had one full team practice before they played Notre Dame this weekend. One practice. And that's not, preseason. When you have the preseason, you have one, you have a couple practices before you play a game. They weren't skating at all, or they had little groups. And they go in and play a game. And I thought that, I'm like, I look back now watching, like, they look pretty good for like part of the first half of the games before they ran out of gas. And they're so close to having to cancel probably their season if they don't play that last weekend. I don't know if they would play in this tournament. So yeah, wild stuff here.
Well, I think if you're Penn State, you just don't pass up the chance of lightning in a bottle, and maybe the team you're supposed to play against has to cancel for COVID, and then you get a chance to play a title game and a one-off chance.
I'm not saying they shouldn't play. I'm just saying how close it was. They had one practice. I don't think they would. I don't know. Is it safe for guys to come right in and play a Division I hockey game when we talked to Alex Limoges. He didn't do anything for 3 weeks or 2.5 weeks. He sat in his house. They weren't able to get out. I think Michigan guys were able to kind of go because they weren't infected or anything. They were just in a bubble because of the school. Penn State guys, I mean, according to Limoges, he didn't do anything. Like, I was like, did you do some push-ups in your house or something? He's like, I just was resting. And I'm like, and then to just hop right into playing a hockey game, that's, even for those guys, that's not, ideal and possibly safe for injuries and et cetera.
Yeah. Beyond the physical, just that mental toll of that. I mean, everyone's kind of used to routines, right? And you feed off of that repetition of, we just did this last week. We know what's happening. Yeah. To have to that uncertainty of of all of it. I mean, even among this whole year of everything being uncertain, that seems like an awful lot to deal with this close to the end of the season now.
It was good to get an idea of exactly what went down there, because I didn't know. I thought they might have had okay, we got back and we practiced for a week. Now we're ready to go. I was just, wow, one practice after really a bunch of 3 weeks of dead time that's not easy to do. But knock on wood again. I think I've knocked on wood 75 times during the podcast. you guys got me all nervous when I'm here by myself. I'm all fine when I'm by myself. But you guys got me all worried again now that something's gonna happen here.
Jeez. I know the Gopher SID Brian Deutsch. He's a little nervous this week because he hasn't been in the tier 1 testing group all season, and now he's in it for this tournament and going forward. And he's always knocking on wood. He's like, come on, negative for the COVID, come on, I don't want the boogeyman, I don't want that on me.
Yeah, right.
Seriously,
it's hard because it's like players aren't doing anything stupid right now. Like, they all know how important this is. They're doing the best they can. I think a lot of people are making fun of the Gophers for posting a picture with their masks on today for a team picture. I don't know if Todd or Cappy saw that.
Yeah.
I thought it was perfect.
It's tongue in cheek. There's going to be a real picture with the mask off. It's funny, but man, some people did not think it was funny. The social media outrage on it is just outstanding.
That's the way
he even mentioned it on his personal Twitter, didn't he? I thought I saw that earlier.
I don't know, but it's tough to be a social media manager for a team these days.
No kidding.
People are just looking to argue. It's
just
like
picking apart anything.
Sport. It's like a sport. It's like a sport now, So I don't think they'll have to worry too much. I think it's going to be hopefully a funny picture 20 years from now, and
yeah, we hope so.
Yeah, hope.
People
knock
are just
on wood,
so
77.
People are just too sensitive.
You guys ever watch the Hard Knocks with John Gruden?
Oh God, yeah.
I'm the only Hard Knocks guy. He's like, if you're with me, knock on wood.
Yeah.
If you're with me, knock on wood.
Here's Deutsch's tweet from 4 hours ago. I'll tell you what, I did not think a team pick could be that controversial.
Was that on his feed or
that was on his personal? It wasn't the Gopher one.
Okay.
People, just like I put it up as the cover photo on my Twitter account and our Facebook page. I'm just like, come on, people, that is perfect for this year. Everyone's right. I think they should have it as their main photo in Mariucci. Just go with it, just to get people going even more. Come on, it's just.
I mean, it's a year now. I mean, well, next week. I mean, the 14th was it? Were those the dates? 14th and 15th last year. Those games were.
This past Monday, it was officially 1 year since I've been at Mariucci. That was the third Notre Dame game when they won that. Sunday
they went to best of 3.
Yeah, that was the last time I was at Mariucci. But probably the last time you were too. Or was it at Vigs?
Well, I was at Ritter watching practice, wondering if the Gophers were going to get on their plane to go to Penn State.
Right.
So I was there, and I could kind of tell things were uncertain about what was going on. I was like, well, at least I'll go see practice, and maybe I'll get some inside info on if they're even skating, or is it like a shinny practice, or guys are like, well, last skate, let's play 3-on-3, kind of thing.
Wow.
But it's been a long year,
to say the least. Jeez.
Yeah, because I saw Strobel at the practice just before he committed. So I was like, well, maybe recruits will keep showing up at the rink.
Oh, wasn't that when did you say isn't that when Motzko took off his skates, went up and talked with him, or was that someone else?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Practice is going on. Motz sees Strobel up on his visit with his dad sitting in the stands. And so he comes over the penalty box, takes off his skates, climbs over the glass, comes up and starts talking to him during practice. It's like, Rabs, he's got this. That's Motz in a nutshell.
Because I got a question for you that you might know the answer to about this summer and the chaos that might ensue. If do you have to go into a transfer portal if you have graduated?
I'm pretty sure you do, from everything I've heard, because you
If
still
there's
have
any
to put
eligibility left, yeah, I think you have to
Well,
change that.
But but say you're a senior.
Yeah.
This I'm talking this year because of the fact that your 4 years are up and you graduated, but you quote unquote have, this year didn't count or whatever. So
everything I know,
knows.
I think it's a little more public with football stuff. Anytime someone puts their name in the portal, it's out there public. There's somebody on GPL who is watching all the hockey players. And I think to transfer, even as a coach graduate, or something
like that.
Yeah, he's a coach at like a smaller institution, but he has access to the portal because he's still a NCAA coach.
Right.
But anyone who puts their name in, that's the only way you can do it. It's not like you're a free agent and you can kind of go on.
You said free agency earlier, so
yeah. So you still have to put your name out there, and people will know that you're looking. So it's always a big caution I've heard from internal people. It's like, once you put your name in, you can't take it out without no one noticing. People are going to know that you did it. So before you put your name in, really think about it, because you might not have a place to go back to if you do it.
Wow.
Like a coach is like, oh, sure. Okay. Scholarship open. Good luck. That's happened.
Well, but I think but then you're getting to where, hey, this is business, and there can be some awkward conversations this spring with guys that, hey, I want to come back, and the coaches are like, well,
I mean, in Atlantic hockey,
not you. We want this other guy. But
right. You back. Atlantic hockey scholarships are year to year.
Everywhere scholarships are year to year.
Big Ten, they're guaranteed.
Okay, well, before I was in the Big Ten, I was never in the Big Ten. I was in the CCHA, but there was quote unquote, you weren't it wasn't guaranteed for 4 years or whatever, but you'd have to do something bad. They couldn't just, it wouldn't look good on a program if you're just dropping guys because they weren't living up to their, scholarships.
Right. You have new coaches who come in and try to set the tone and clean house, right? But you don't.
That's one thing, but not not over
existing coach. Yeah,
right.
It's even worse in Atlantic hockey because sometimes they'll say, "Okay, you pay full tuition your first 2 years. Your last 2 years are paid for." That's some shady stuff that happens out there. It's crazy.
Wow.
I mean, I had that, but I got a written letter. So I was a 3 for 4. I was a 3 for 4 guy. I took less to go where I went, actually. But I had a letter sent to me because I was considered a walk-on because I didn't get any money my first year, at least not till late in the year. But I had a letter, though, signed everything that said you start on scholarship this next year and you'll be on it through whatever. And I don't know if that holds water, but I would have had that at least if they would have tried to do something whatever. So anyways, it's going to be interesting though, all across the country,
to say the least. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, what is it? Is it a Sean that went to Arizona State?
Doogie.
Who went to
Sean
Doogie? Sean Doogie.
No, Doogie. Yep. We talked to him early in the year because we had them twice, and before the season started, it sounded like because they had made that ruling. It already sounded like he had said, "Oh yeah, I'm going to be here for 2 years."
Yeah,
like he seemed really happy. He didn't say it, but it seemed pretty obvious that he was going to be there. And I don't know. He didn't have. I don't know. Solid college player, but I don't think he's lived up to expectation for his career. I mean,
he wants to play some golf.
Whatever his expectation was there, and Anyway. Gonna knock the guy. That's great. Hey, guys can get go to graduate school.
Yeah.
I had my friend who had to redshirt a medical, and his 5th year he was graduated. He was teaching. He wasn't even going to school. He was in grad school to be a teacher and he was going to an elementary school 3 times a week and doing that program. It was, so that could be another thing where maybe a guy wants to go somewhere else, play hockey, but they've got a great program that they want to be in for something in graduate school. A guy that doesn't see themselves as a pro hockey player, but is a good college guy.
I need to stop us for a second. Deutsch is in the chat. Brian Deutsch is in the chat right now.
Yes.
He told me he was going to listen. That's why I threw that little bit out there about his tier 1 testing status. just to let him know. That's what we do.
Wait, he's still listening now?
He's still in there. He's monitoring the OT tonight.
My full name is on my Zoom now.
And that's why we let you in. That's why we let you in, Paul.
I almost put my middle initial on the damn thing. Put my full resume on there,
And like I said, he let me in there when I had my girlfriend's name once. So
that was a mistake, obviously. That was
Well,
the wise man told me that's how porn ends up in a Zoom meeting.
Oh.
The funny thing is twice he put in the chat like, hey, tell me who you are, like show your ID. I'm like, well, there was no way for me to chat back. I was locked out of the chat. So there was no way for me on the Zoom to say, hey, it's me. Can you let me in? I was texting guys to try to get his attention. All that was pretty funny.
I think Deutsch should just join us right now.
I sent him the link.
Come on, Deutsch. You click the link. Come on in.
I don't want to get in trouble ahead of the
It's overtime.
It's not recording. Kind of. It's in the archives, right?
Yeah, the other week after Kinger talked me into another bourbon, I was like, maybe we should take this down sooner rather than later, Cotner.
He was just glad he had the record overtime until last week.
I know records were made to be broken. I don't know if that's going to happen this week.
No, I don't think so. But
yeah. I mean, mine was long. Mine was long just because I was on Eastern time and it was like near 1 a.m.
It was close. Yes, it was close to 1 a.m.
That was the original
where
record.
I thought I had it.
Yeah,
that was a long one. You guys are so entertaining, though. I'm in.
Well, I did get drunk the John King night because I had dinner like at 5 p.m. and then I drank an entire bottle of wine. I was slurring at the end quite a bit. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Nice.
I just wanted to get as many stories out of King as we could. And he was giving us some good feedback as a media mogul that he is.
He is a media mogul guy. He could squash us easily.
Although he did give us some credit. He's like, you guys are doing pretty well on your own. So keep doing what you're doing. So,
and we have guys like you two on.
I know. Patience. It's great to have, Todd.
Hey.
I'm
just happy you called me you call me for this every once in a while.
Oh, geez. You are now the tied for the most appearances on the show.
Wow.
With Frank. You both have 9 appearances.
Todd, I think you're the top writer in the Big Ten. If there was a Big Ten award, like if our
the NCAC had
if Josh Fenton was doing the Big Ten, I think Todd, you'd be up for something.
Man,
your only rival would be Neil
Kepke.
Oh yeah,
I'll give it to him. I'll take it back.
He might have seniority. That's about.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Neil at Frozen 4 is just a treat.
Awesome.
Like I'm not by any means a vet of those experiences, but you see him work the crowd in between interviews and things like that. It's just like, oh man,
he's good in the food room too. He's good in the cafeteria.
I'm not at that level. I'm just like at the food room. I'm just like, all right, who do I know here that will talk to me?
I sat with him and Paula. I think that was in Minneapolis. I sat with them quite a bit. Paula was a professor at Ohio State when I was playing. So yeah, that was nice. And then Neil, I didn't know he's a Buckeye. Like you think of him as he's been at Michigan State, but he was an Ohio State guy originally. So
The chat wants some dirt out of Madison.
Dirt?
Dirt. I know. There's really not.
Is there anything overtime worthy that you can share
Wow.
out of Madison?
It's just
not
not that
Mike Russo always likes to say on his podcast, I probably shouldn't say this, but and I'm like, that's how you know you've got a good Russo podcast going on. When LaPanta gets him going or Barrero gets him going, he's like, I shouldn't say this, but I wouldn't write this, but.
Well, we already talked about Doogie. Most people were talking about, what would do. We actually kind of covered that in the last overtime.
Yeah, we did.
And things just kind of weren't
well,
really...
that was one of the things that I wouldn't write, that I spilled a little bit about how that came unglued at the end of last season. Yeah. The thing about this year is that, as opposed to last year where there was a lot of bickering and animosity and guys were not there they were there for themselves in a lot of ways.
Yep.
I haven't seen a whole lot of that. And it's one of those, is it because their record's better, or is their record better because, there isn't that level of me first. So,
Holloway admitted to it. He said it in his presser.
Yeah.
He literally said it. Guys were about me last year. I don't think he meant to say it as obvious,
the guys
but he
who
did
aren't
kind of
here.
come out and say it.
He said that a few weeks ago too, that, in a different way though. He said, having been around a negative team last year, it's enlightening basically to see a team that looks at things positively this year. So, guys have kind of danced around that all year, but no one said it that directly that, last year guys were just, guys were going negative.
It's hard when you've got that much beyond, Michigan's done it well, but this year they've got some good guys. I'm not saying Wisconsin have good guys, but it's hard when you've got all those first round and high end guys. And everyone's, and you're getting all this praise, and then you're feeling the pressure to produce. Oh, if I don't do it, I'm, this guy's going to look bad. It's just natural to be looking out for yourself a little bit. It's hard. I'm never in that situation personally, but man, it's tough. It's not easy.
I think the key to avoiding that is winning. And having your top players having good years. If your top alpha player is having a good year and you're winning, it all trickles down. But if your leader who has the C or something, or has all this, first round pick, and they've stayed or whatever, and if they're struggling, that just seeps into everything else that's going on in a program, and it's hard to be successful. Unless you have the right guy going through that.
I think when your third line center accepts that he's a third line center, that's when it works, right? If your third line center thinks, well, I'm a top line guy, I should be getting those minutes. Usually he goes off the rails pretty fast there.
That's the two major factors though, easily discipline. Last year it was ugly at times, the penalties they were getting, and then goaltending, obvious goaltending.
Yep.
There were just goals last year. We were like, how you couldn't help but, if you're a player, you slump your shoulders. I'm not knocking it. It's just the way it was.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And it was more the frustrating thing, I think, for them, that they saw games when, both the goalies they had were really, really good. And it's like, why isn't that the way it is every night? And it was when you give up some of the goals they did last year and at the times they did, and they gave a bunch of them back to back too, where you give up one, and just whatever. You give up one on the next shift, and it's like, man, we're done.
And you're giving up that goal. I was saying, LaFontaine doesn't ever give that up. Those are the goals where you just hard to come back from, or you're looking down at that. It is just hard. It's an emotional game. You're in the heat of it, and you're looking like that just went in, and it fills. But
I blocked 10 shots, so that would go in. You know, that's the feeling, right?
Rowe looks like he's going to be a beast. From what he looks the part, he looks it. We'll see, obviously, but he looks like he's going to be a stud. But don't want to jinx him or anything, but he looks like the part big time. And
if it doesn't work out, this will be the one. You didn't knock on wood after saying that.
This is the post game show. I can make all kinds of new predictions and stuff now, right?
New predictions.
So it's like the Bill Maher. We'll do new rules.
So it is interesting though. You guys are Big Ten is kind of gotten Ben Holden over from CBS. He was pretty popular over there, at least for the NCAC teams. I don't know who's calling their games now, but now you're going to get to work with them on Sunday, and he's kind of a free agent right now, isn't he?
Yeah, I don't know how that works with all those guys because I'm not a free agent. I'm a freelance. Like if ESPN wanted to hire me for regionals, I could do it. You know what I mean? I think Ben had a contract. We didn't get into the details. We did talk on the phone kind of after we got put together, and he just said he just like a breakup, I guess, or something. Something went wrong because he's really good. I think. He's got the voice, got that energy. So I'm excited for that. I love working with Chris too, because Chris is just so good because he can call any game. He could call a squash game, I think. And
he could,
and he's getting good at hockey because now he's been doing it, but he came not from any really kind of hockey background at all. And he asks for help, like in terms of hockey lingo and not saying certain things that sound kind of but yeah, it's gonna be cool. Chris was complaining about how he has to go do field hockey this week, not because of the sport, but to learn all these names of 11 on 11. He
calls so many different things though. He's calling swimming the other night. Yeah, swimming, diving. Yeah. He's calling everything.
Yeah, it's he's got some skills, that's for sure. So, but Ben, no, I think it's exciting. I think he knew Sue, that kind of is a coordinating producer at BTN from working from previous times. And I think, when he got let go and was a free agent, I think, obviously you start calling people, in other companies. And, I think they knew who he was and what he's done and all that. So I think it was no brainer to try to get him in to hockey, and who knows
who's calling their games for their tournament then? No.
For CBS?
Who's going to fill in? I mean, I'm sure that.
Well, somebody's been doing their games with Starman. I don't remember his name, and I've heard a couple of them, but I haven't looked in. I don't know if Meeks knows or. Yeah, but somebody's been doing them since past Christmas, because I think it was maybe his contract ended at Christmas. And he didn't really do anything the first half of the year.
They didn't. Yeah,
because
they didn't have
those games were he did the Midco or whatever, whatever that was in that bubble.
In the bubble,
so maybe he was out. Maybe he didn't get a new contract at all. So I didn't. I let him tell me whatever he wanted to a part of that, and it wasn't much. But he's excited. He's a Michigan State guy. Growing up in Michigan and all that kind of stuff. So.
And Vosters is a Wisconsin guy, so it's not like, he's been around hockey, so maybe he hadn't called it as much, but
he was calling a game. He was at, I don't know if maybe you were calling this game with him at Penn State last year, and he was
against you guys.
Yeah. And he was he talking to us. He was really nervous. It was one of the first hockey games he'd done, I think, at that point. But you could tell he was asking all the right things. He was trying to figure out. He was talking to Brian Posick, who's just does a great job with Wisconsin at radio and TV side. just trying to pick his brain on everything. And so, yeah, it's that, level of commitment of, understanding what you're not great at and trying to make yourself better at it rather than just coming in and saying, I'll do whatever is in front of me and it'll be my way and whatever. It never works that way.
And we've seen that in disasters in the past. I know ESPN had a game at Mariucci. It was a tennis announcer they brought in.
Yeah.
And it
remember
was
that one.
Brutal.
It was rough because especially the Minnesota crowd watching was just relentless on social with
tough one to come into.
Yeah. Ooh. It's like maybe you want to start with a Flow TV game first and work your way out.
It was pretty bad.
By the way, I figured out it's Alex Heinert is the guy who's doing it for them now. He's kind of been the North Dakota
he's a really good
guy for a long time. He's been good, but they just went with him. I like Ben though too.
Okay. Yeah. Right. It just sounded weird when I turned it on to hear that guy with Dave, because they've been doing it for 8 or 10 years, maybe roughly somewhere in there.
And Starman has come in and done a couple Big Ten games.
Yeah,
he did last year. Yeah. He came in. So I mean, who knows how that works out.
I think that's good because then, like you said, these guys get to see more teams. I mean, Starman was at Mariucci last year. I think he was just there for just to visit. He wasn't calling any games.
I think he was still doing his Montreal. Montreal scouting at that point too.
Yeah, I think he's with Seattle now, or will be, or I don't know how that works. Scouting when you don't have a team yet, but I think next year be more heavily involved. But
you guys like Kraken and the colors and and everything. I like it.
Yeah,
I'm fine with it.
Yeah, no problem with it. Yeah, it's not like I'm running out to buy anything, but it's
way better. I think it's better than the Wild.
Well, it's just enough different to make it interesting, intriguing. Not wolves or tigers,
the bears,
cats, and right.
Another name in the NHL with no S on the end. Wild, Avalanche. That's always a question, or like a question.
Okay.
Yeah, how many teams and name them or whatever that don't have
makes writing a little more complicated.
Deutsche chiming in here. It was Sam Gore who was that tennis announcer, and it was the first Big Ten conference game. And it was an ESPN game or something.
So is Deutsch a little shy? Is that what we're getting from this? He doesn't want to come in.
He's nervous to put himself on camera for this.
Yeah,
for job responsibilities.
He could go no video, but hey, Deutsch, I go on Zooms with the coaches. I don't go on video. I hide in the dark.
I don't want to give Deutsch an excuse here, but maybe he's got, he's can't make a lot of noise. Yeah. He's got young children. Right. You don't want to assume
he's still at the office, probably.
He's laying in bed with his AirPods on,
He's like, I'm in my own bubble until I fly to South Bend. He's like, I'm isolating and quarantining myself. Sorry, honey, I can't put the kid to bed. I can't wake him up. I can't change diapers. I got to be in a bubble, even for me.
Wait, I'm going to be traveling and be away for 5 days while you're at home with the child.
It's got to be a 14-day thing.
He's already in trouble. He's already in trouble. Because, I mean, how old is the youngster?
Tris is
3,
2, getting close
to 2.
I don't know.
I think 2.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember when I was there last. What was that? October. So that's a year and a half ago, and it was pretty fresh then.
You talk about Voster's. His first game with you here at Mariucci was that Michigan series when there was nobody in the stadium.
Yeah, couple hundred. Yeah, that was
bad.
And then the Gophers played well. I helped them. Swept Michigan.
I think Deutsch. We'll get Deutsch on the podcast when he's no longer the SID.
He'll probably write a book.
Yeah.
the tales I have to tell.
How he really feels about all of us.
Right.
Do you remember him as a Minnesota Daily writer there, Todd?
I remember of him. Yeah. I don't remember interacting because
because I was there, but I just remember it's more of I remember the face.
Okay.
What about you? Do you remember Deutsch being there as Minnesota Daily, Viggs? Oh, you're muted. Viggs, you're muted.
Still muted.
I went out to California for a while with my
that's right. I would
with my girlfriend who became my fiance, became my wife, and now we're parents of 2. So it might have been during that period of my life.
I think you're right.
So
that might have been the also the time that Fiona Quick was still there.
Magic boots.
Fish boots. Best ever.
By the way, Trist did turn 2 in December, so I was pretty close there.
Oh, there you go. At least you remember, because I have terrible memory. I can't remember anything. Just click the link, Deutsche. Come on, join us. You can have a beverage. Viggs has already moved on to number 2 beverage.
I did try this, Madison.
We had Drew Cove. Drew. We saw Drew in the chat last week. Drew Cove. He does a lot of writing.
Happy birthday, Drew.
Yeah, he just turned 23.
22, 23?
23.
Come on. What?
But he wasn't on the podcast, but we had him on overtime because I saw him in the chat. I'm like, sent them the link. He came and joined us for about at least over an hour.
That's our new thing.
Wow.
If you're in the chat and you've been a previous guest, we might try to get you back on.
Wow.
So what do you know, or is there anything really to know about people being at the games this weekend?
I know that there's talk about opening it up to more than just parents and pass list.
Because the pass list is 70 per team.
They're gonna announce that Sunday morning, and people.
Yeah, right.
Well, I think maybe people who are big wheel people at institutions might. Well, like Lou Nanny, the Compton family, the people who are the big boosters might get access. I think there was talk about maybe doing tickets, but they're just like, no, Notre Dame doesn't want to do that either. But I think there is room to open it up to more than just parents and family, like they've done for all the other games.
Right.
Or they might just find a way to do it with 70 tickets per team, like let the players figure out who they want to have and then just figure out the extra and then hand them out that way.
Are the tickets for all the games? Can someone go to all 3? One ticket?
Good question too.
That is a good question.
Penn State fans that come, can they just stay there all day?
I believe they cannot. I believe they can only stay there for their. I believe the allotment of 70 per team. They can only be there when their team is playing.
So I think that's the only. That's how I would see it. The only way maybe you get more people is if you got 6 times 75, whatever tickets that is. You get 300 or 400 people. I don't know.
Is that your
so a typical Big Ten conference crowd then?
Is that right? Did I say something? 400 people, 7 times 6, 420. Okay. No. No,
I
give me
a hard time, Gabby.
Oh, I know. Rethink if I was
the Albany Regional is requiring proof of a COVID test. So if it looks like the Albany Regional might have a crowd
instead of 25.
They're going to say if you're going to be there as a crowd, you need to have proof you've had the COVID test at least.
I wonder if they're requiring the same of media because that.
Albany's awful. I played a region. I played with my last college game against Wisconsin.
I was there. Yes, that was a hell of a night. That ice was like soup, wasn't it? That was
awful,
terrible.
Both years, my junior and senior year, we played in Providence. My junior year, and it was a awful, sloppy mess. And then senior year in Albany, another awful. I don't know. I think they redo the ice because they paint in all the crap. Yeah. And it makes it terrible.
Or they've not had ice there all year.
Now they don't have a team. So
AHL teams.
But now they don't. So yeah, right. Back then they
could be better. It could be better.
They probably just rush it and just flood it, paint it.
Oh yeah, and
flood it.
And put crappy ice over it.
No, that never works. I worked at an ice arena for a couple of years. You got to layer that stuff. You got to take out the sprayer, spray it down. Eighth of an inch is maybe too much at a time. You gotta get that bonding.
Yeah, it was
hot water, right?
And Albany's terrible.
Yeah, ideally, No, if you're just doing thin sheets, you can do whatever for the most part. Hot water is when you want to melt down rivets in the ice and make it all flat. But when you're building ice, you can kind of do whatever. It actually works sometimes better to have colder water because it freezes quicker, and then you put the next layer down.
That's got to be frustrating as a player, though.
I do a lot of stuff. So
that's got to be frustrating, Cappy. I mean, you play on decent ice all year, and then you get to playoffs, and it's just shit.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you'd say both teams had to play on it.
True,
so
but
figure it out. Oh, it's for sure. I mean, both games were 1-0 games. One was in overtime, so there you go. Like,
are we cutting open we're cutting open a vein here, aren't we?
No, it wasn't high premium. Scoring chances. It was very scrappy hockey. Just get pucks at the net. Their goal in overtime was a yeah. There was a shot on a rush that then the rebound went to the far side, and Dan Besser with the rebound. And that's how my career ended, sitting on the bench watching that goal.
At least you weren't in a penalty box.
No, guy, it was overtime. That would have been really bad if you get a penalty in overtime. That would be a bad way to go. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, if Albany likes Todd, ice should be pretty good. If nobody's skating on it, or it's not been skated, it's brand new.
I wouldn't think there's a whole lot of events in there. Hopefully they give it enough time to do it right. I mean, that's the thing. If you're trying to do it in 3 days, you're going to make a mess of it. So,
yeah, I don't trust. I'm like, a guy that's gotten cheated on. I don't trust it at those arenas because that's what happened to me.
Yeah.
So
Dan Besser, that's quite the name.
Dan Besser, 2004.
Brock Besser, cousin, and Badger, and Burnsville guy, St. Savage guy.
Yeah, I think I played against him in Green Bay before that. He was on the Green Bay junior team, I think.
Yep, that's right.
And then I think I played against him in the finals in the U-Haul, Rockford, Kalamazoo, Game 7. Rockford beat us in like 07 finals. They beat us in Game 7 to win the whatever the United League was called, or Cup.
Did you ever win anything, Cappy?
Well, yeah, we won the CCHA my senior year.
Well, there you go.
Won 3-3. Michigan in front of 19,000 Michigan fans at the Joe.
Oh, you got to wear your championship ring. You got to wear your championship ring when you come on the podcast and just
look what I got.
Well, the one time I do bring it out usually, or I did bring it out, was for the championship game. If I was in the studio with Pizzo, I would wear it for the big championship game night or whatever. So
we'll put on the bling for Tuesday night then.
I probably both nights, since it's my one studio hit for the whole time. I'll probably wear it. I won't bring in the MVP trophy. Okay. I mean,
that'd be great. Just right there on the desk next to you. Don't even mention it. Just it's there. Yeah.
What is that? What Cappy? What is that with you?
I just like to bring out my trophies and put them up behind me.
You want to know the stats? You don't know the stats I have for this weekend to get this. We can talk we get our own special post game show for that.
I shot a 73 at Les Bolstad for this one. I even par on 18.
Was it the first year? I think it was the first year when Ohio State was in the final against the Badgers, and they were playing their third game in 3 days. Mm-hmm. And it was 10 years. It was 2014. So it was 10 years on anniversary of us doing that at the Joe, winning 3 in 3 days. So I was just kind of use that as like comparing teams and how we did it based on like Ohio State was playing 4 lines and, had the energy. And I think they had a 2-goal lead in them. Second or third period.
Sounds right. Yeah.
Wisconsin went bang, bang, tied it. And then I think Zingerly in overtime, maybe it was guy or Barnes, one of those two. Those guys were similar. Yeah. Zingerly.
Yeah, they were similar. You're right. Yeah.
It's kind of like McManus and Reedy. Like, my God, those guys are pretty similar looking players. And it's kind of been over the 4 year, that right-handed smooth guy. They are very similar looking. Not saying their games are exactly alike, but they're very similar looking mannerisms on the ice and that kind of stuff. So there.
You had mentioned getting back to the ice discussion from a minute ago. I'm doing something this week, working with SIDs to have players vote on some awards for Big Ten. And one of the categories I wanted to do was basically rank the ice conditions at Big Ten rinks. And there was enough of an outcry from some of the schools that they didn't want to be seen as, throwing anyone under the bus, that I had to drop that one to get.
Did Deutsche get grumpy with you?
No, he thought that was actually one of the best.
All right.
Maybe you could just do
things
best
out there.
ice.
It's pretty obvious, right?
Well,
where the bottom two are obvious and the other five are obvious for the opposite reason.
Right. Originally, I said ranked 1 through 7. And then there was blowback in that. So I said, well, what if we just do 1 through 3? And then so if, the terrible ones are just left out.
So that Ohio State and Wisconsin, I don't feel like they're going to be 7.
So no, we think that'll still be, obvious then who's at the bottom of the list. So in the interest
Did you
of
get some gripe from your area, maybe?
Yeah, no, it wasn't my area, to be honest with you.
That'd be the Buckeyes then.
No.
Our ice is not good.
This is overtime. You probably shouldn't say this, but
hey, I love where I played, but our ice was Yost Ice Arena was the Joe might have been the best ice I played in college, but Yost was pretty damn good. Like
Munn always looks good. I've never been on it, obviously, but it always looks like glass.
It's those hot boards too.
Mm.
They have that puck just fires off the bottom
spring loaded.
Yeah. I mean, like the Joe. I mean, the Joe is very notorious for having the hot boards and Lidstrom bouncing pucks off the back wall for passes out front. But I think those 5 places, I mean, obviously because they're hockey only. And then, I mean, this year you could put Wisconsin in there because they played at Levon. Yeah. That's just, that's such a nice thing to have is hockey only. So that'd be a hard one to, I don't know how you judge that. If you had your nonpartisans vote.
Can't vote for everyone but your school.
That's what I end up doing for all the categories is vote for top 3 in this category, not that
you didn't
aren't on your team.
You don't, right.
And then give me your top from your team, just so that I have a separate, can go down a list of, on each team, here's their teammates. Well, no, here's who their team voted for best player,
like a
best
coach's
forward,
media
poll.
poll.
Right.
The coaches think this player's awesome, but the media. Yeah.
Right.
Viggs is shrinking. Mariucci still on the table?
Oh boy.
As soon as they get a donor.
As
soon as someone puts up the money. I mean, the plans are there. It's just they need $6 million to do it.
Of course.
So budgets at the U are ridiculous. We've talked about it a couple times, but like they're going to be $160 million in debt after this year.
Yeah.
And they're going to have to hire a new basketball coach probably this month.
Ooh, breaking news.
How about Megan's article?
Did they win today, by the way?
They won today. They tried to lose it.
They play the Buckeyes tomorrow.
Yeah, it'll be a quick one.
How about Megan's article? Front page of the Star Tribune.
Yep. Meg Ryan, as her parting shot to her U of M beat, she broke down the U's lack of diversity among higher athletic department personnel and revenue coaches. And the U doesn't really have any kind of standing to say you're wrong because it's a lot of whiteness. But at the same time, I mean, I see Mark's point as well. He's like, I can't take chances on anything. I have to hire who I think is going to do the best job. And it just hasn't worked out for some of the jobs that he's hired. Lindsay Whalen, are you going to not hire her? Bob Motzko, not hire her? PJ Fleck, those are hard to argue against. Some of the other things I think in the athletic department, they do have diversity issue in their higher administrative positions. So they have an opportunity to do something about it because they've had, I think, 4 of their top people leave in the last year, but because of the pandemic, they haven't replaced them with anybody. So there's some valid arguments there. It sounds like the people I talk to who are connected, there's a coach who used to be an assistant for Florida State, who's now at Cleveland State. He's probably the front runner, Anthony Gates. But we'll see. There's a lot of Minnesota connections with Craig Smith and Nico Medved and Eric Musselman Eric Musselman. So we'll see. But it's front and center here. Even the Star Tribune shut down.
But Megan was the beat writer for the hockey for a little while, and then she did football.
I mean, she mostly did football, but she did some hockey.
Yep. And now she's on the cover of the entire.
Wow.
Because she moved to the Twins beat this week.
She did. Too. She took over for Lavelle.
Yeah.
On a lighter note, that guy looked on top there that got axed looked like Jay Cutler. he had Jay Cutler face.
Oh, Vikings kicker problems. That never happens.
There you
go.
Yeah. Viggs, do you know what the Mariucci would look like? Have you seen like the plan?
Yep, I've seen the plan. It would try to shrink the corners to a more NHL radius than the deep square ones, and it would end up being like about 91 feet, 90 feet, somewhere in there.
So they'd shrink 10 feet,
digging down, right?
And they'd have to dig down to maintain the sight lines.
And would they? Okay, so they would just add in a row of seats, not.
On the sides.
Thinking maybe they'd make it like some high-end places, maybe where people would pay, like some corporate, where people would pay a little extra money to stand and maybe have like a bar or something in the corner. Because I know alcohol is.
Yeah, they do not have official plans for that idea, but they've talked about doing some standing bar tables around the rink. Or like a dugout kind of thing, but those aren't in the plans that they have. The plans that they have, they've had for 8 years, maybe.
Yeah.
And all these ideas
those could evolve.
Yeah, all these ideas about alternative seating arrangements could happen with this, but they would be separate outside of what's already planned. But they've thought about some interesting things, like how the Wild have their Bud Light club room in the upper deck. It's basically like a bar that can see the rink, and dugout seats where you have like a suite that has a cutout to see the ice and things like that. They've talked about that kind of stuff to try to have better premium seating, because the people I talk to in athletics, they're like, premium seats we can sell. It doesn't matter if the team's good or bad, those seats will still sell. It's the general seats that are harder to sell. So why not cut down the capacity and expand this premium seating thing? But it's
make an experience.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, and now that, they're selling alcohol there, correct? Am I right on that? Or so
yeah, you can go a Surly there.
I mean,
did you ever get to play at Mariucci?
Me? No, I played at the Excel Center. We talked about this.
Okay.
We got our butts kicked at the Excel. It was the first game after the national championship in 02. So it would have been,
I think I was
02, 03.
I was like a 7-something game, wasn't it? Ooh.
It was like 6-2 or something.
Yeah. I think that was the one where we had the
Vanek's
suite
first game.
Yeah, that was the one we had a suite over in the corner. All the gang from the old website.
Yeah. And we had a pretty good team. We ended up, we had a good team that year. We went, we were a 3 seed in the regional, whatever. We had 4 NHL centermen on that team. Kessler, Umberger, Steckel, and Rod Pelly played 200 games in NHL. But that was the thing, just like Wisconsin last year. That year we were pretty good, but we lost Umberger and Kessler, both left. And the next year we had a better team. And it was kind of a, little more cohesive team. Not their fault, but just like kind of the coaches tend to, without meaning to, treat guys differently.
To enable
and then
it
affects your, like I remember if he gets a penalty, an undisciplined penalty and he doesn't sit, but Joe Smith on the fourth line does the same thing, it just can affect, that's where it's fragile with the coaches, how they react and how they discipline guys can just send a vibe through the team without intention. And that was for us. And I'm not saying that was with Wisconsin last year, but that can happen without intent. It's just human nature.
Well, that definitely happened with Casey Middlestat at the U. Like he definitely got some kid gloves for situations. And like there were some games where Don would grab him in the hallway or at the bench after a period to say what he needed to say to him rather than do it in front of the team because it got so tense.
Yeah.
It's hard to
tough.
handle because you want those guys to stick around, but at the same time you want to coach them and at the same time you want to develop them. It's a sticky wicket.
Yeah.
Todd, Deutsch is asking in the chat, did his guys get their ballots into you or does he need to crack skulls?
Hold please. Let me
he wants
flip this link.
Deutsch could ask you himself if he just clicked the little link and joined our overtime.
I got a second screen here I need to get to.
And Casey seems to be struggling a little bit, right? Still.
Oh boy.
Yeah. He left
he would get some time, and
he'd be a senior this year, wouldn't he?
Possibly.
Was junior?
Oh wait,
was it 2 years only?
I
think it's his third year out.
Yeah, maybe a third year out. But he
was
just
in that
wasn't ready.
McManus group. I think he was in that class.
He just wasn't ready. We talk about Kessler and what he was like benching when he got to Ohio State.
Yeah.
Like Casey is probably in the same spot.
Yeah.
He had a separated shoulder that he didn't even know he had when he got to the U.
Right.
And like that pull-up story at the combine, it's because his shoulder was out of socket. So he didn't have the strength because of that.
Yeah. I just look at these guys and I look at Jack Hughes. I mean, he's doing okay now, but and he was the chosen one that was gonna either way was gonna play. They wanted him to be U.S. program, first pick, go to the NHL. But I just think, man, if he went to college for a year and dominated and got strong, did you do so much strength training in college? Man, there's a lot of it. And I think that's what Cole is going to benefit so much from 2 years. I don't know if it's his hair, but you could see he's bigger guy, right?
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know.
The same with Makar. I mean, that extra year took him from being a pretty good, to really good defenseman in college to the best there was in that season. So that's what a second year can do for some guys. I mean, maybe it means more for defensemen in general, just because that does take a little bit more.
Element. Yeah.
But
Hughes or Quinn Hughes.
Yeah.
Adam Fox. I mean, those three guys were the best rookies in the NHL last year.
Yeah.
But to each their own.
So Deutsch, I have heard from 3 of your players. So 2 of them, and they were quick too. Those came in on Monday morning.
There you go.
I have a feeling like if I had the list of 5 players, I could maybe identify them, but
and that's the thing. I didn't, ask who they were going to be. It's an anonymous thing. So
okay.
I just asked the SADs to pick 5 guys and send this link out to them. So that's, and whatever it ends up being, it ends up being, it's not a, official award.
Supposed to be fun.
It's gonna be for a story.
It's a game.
That's it.
It's a game. It's supposed to be fun, right?
I don't have any hardware to give out or anything like that. So we'll just leave it as a.
Back in the day, we used to have a couple Gopher players writing blogs for us on the website. I had Blake Wheeler writing blogs. We had Danny Ehrman. We had quite a few players back in the mid 2000s just sending stuff. We put it up on the site.
You were the Players Tribune before the Players Tribune.
A little bit, but it was more of a thing just to say for them to kind of say, hey, getting ready for the weekend and stuff like that. So I even Frazee. Long Island Jeff Frazee was writing stuff for us. It was fun.
I mean, you guys obviously know this, but out of the last 20 years, Blake Wheeler's got to be the most successful. Well, Thomas Vanek, maybe successful player out of the U in the NHL.
Kessel.
Yeah, I feel like Blake Wheeler's past him now.
Yeah,
he is a top line.
He's a captain type
80-point producer.
Yeah,
him, and he was in some stat where with most assists over the last 5 years or something with McDavid, not even McDavid, Kane and McDavid or something. And I just feel like he's elevated into where you would have not thought that. Like he was a good player, but I don't know how I got on this tangent, but you mentioned names, but Blake Wheeler, I think, is in the last 20 years. I don't know. He's getting to there. He's on his way to passing Kessel, I think.
Yeah, I think he's definitely still has runway left in his career.
Yeah.
And the thing with Wheeler is I coached high school football against him. And I remember he was a tight end. And we were game planning against his Breck team. And they had a receiver that was committed to Clemson. Mm-hmm. And so we had devised this scheme where we were going to kind of like do a over-under coverage on him and just take him out of the game and take our chances with everybody else. And Wheeler absolutely killed us. We're like, oh my God, this guy is so fast. And it's just like he was so big and gangly and still developing as an athlete. And it's like he just killed us that game. And you'd watch him play high school hockey and you're like, wow, this guy has got lots of growth left to him. And like he just every year he got better. And
I was going to say that. Like
that was his thing.
He was a different kind of player in college, wasn't he? Wasn't he more like a power forward? And now he's like a, playmaker.
He's a pivot. No.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying I expected him to be bad. I just didn't see him. Whereas these other guys, Casey's got, the Golden Child was supposed to, and still could be. He's young, but I've been very impressed the last couple of years. Like, wow, this guy is a stud.
Deutsch, if he was here, he would be saying that cups give Kessel the edge since he did win at least one cup with.
Yeah, I guess I was just talking individual game.
Yeah.
But I guess too also
but I'd say as fan favorites, another person said in chat, does Kessel ever come back to the U or something like that? No. I mean, whereas a lot of other former players come back in the summer, like a Wheeler, a Poso, Goligoski, things like that. You never hear anything about Kessel here.
I guess I was more arguing the fact that you didn't see it coming from Wheeler like this. Like Kessel, you were like, okay, this guy's going to score. True. And be that guy. Nobody saw 80-point year in, year out Blake Wheeler. I mean, somebody did, but
he got drafted really high. So Boston thought he was pretty darn good when they drafted him, but I think everybody in Minnesota was shocked by that.
He's exceeded some expectations.
Like he was a huge reach. Everyone was like, wow, really?
Right.
Because he was a really high pick. Was he like 5th overall?
It might be. I mean,
it was pretty high.
I mean, that was very surprising.
Yeah.
It was all on potential too.
It was all on potential. And the fact that he, wasn't a kid who just played hockey year round. He was still a developing kid.
Biggest disappointment then for Minnesota. Eric Johnson?
No.
Number one overall pick.
He's a solid guy.
He still plays as a top pair guy.
I know, but
I mean, he was a disappointment at the U because he didn't stick around, but he developed into a steady veteran NHL guy. Somebody more like who's the Apple Valley guy? David Fisher. Like that's more of your disappointment.
Who is that?
Exactly.
He was a first round pick of Montreal, played at Apple Valley.
Really?
He was an awesome high school player. Took his team in the state tournament, looked like he was going to be a dynamite player at the U and just never developed at the U. He's like a 20th overall pick.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah,
a
that's-
guy
that's
like
a-
that is
Well, I was he was not playing that three game series in Mankato. You know, what or some series in Mankato. I'm actually might not have been a playoff series. He comes and sits in the little press box that they now have there at Mankato. And he's sitting next to me. And my gosh, the guy was dropping bombs. I mean, he killed us in the national anthem. And he even said it. Yep, that was me. Like, oh my gosh. There you go. There you go.
Can't be fun at the old ballpark.
Ooh, Tim Hapke says Pat White. Well, Pat White had a really good high school tournament, and then he just never
Okay.
turned out as a player. There's
I
got to be a
couldn't
lot
get
of
one.
disappointment.
Even guys that I played against, everyone was, pretty solid or didn't have that huge expectation other than, Vanek. And I think
Vanek, I mean,
he
Vanek
solidified himself.
had
And
Vanek had 60
did it.
points his freshman year, 30 goals, 30 assists. That's
Oh yeah, he started quick. He had 4 against us, I think, in the first game. So
yeah, that was his
off
first
and
goal, and then Fox interviews him in between period with no delay, drops an F bomb.
running. Oh, he did.
He
Oh,
did.
nice. That makes me feel
Yeah,
better.
I just took the goal and I just took the fucking puck and went around it and he said something like that, and it went live. It was
Welcome
live
to college, 18-year-old from
Yep.
Vienna,
And then-
Switzerland, or Austria, or whatever.
And then for the rest of Lucia's career as a coach at Minnesota, he never let freshmen talk to the media for like the first month.
yeah, that's
All
probably-
because of Vanek wrecked it for everyone.
And then he was really like the first guy out. Now he wasn't the first non-Minnesota guy, but he was the first guy like
Kind of out there, yeah. I would say, yeah.
away. I mean, he wasn't
they had
at
some
Patolny,
Canadians and
right?
stuff like that,
My
but,
buddy
you know,
Patolny was the
some-
first one, right?
some guy out of Austria. That's who's this guy?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
but you say, I just took the fucking puck and this somebody got it somewhere saved. I would love to have that.
Oh, that'd be a
Is-
great drop.
That would be great audio to have.
Get that
but
in
I
his
think-
Hall in
I
his
was at the
Minnesota
game, so
Gophers Hall of Fame speech.
Oh.
Viggs will probably remember that one kindly.
We were just talking about, Vanek saying, I just took the fucking puck and just, and how Lucia shut down the freshman from there on out.
I love Vanek. He was so much fun.
Yeah. Just
I
so
wish
good and
I wish
never
we'd have been
tried
covering
hard
that.
in
He would have been
life.
fun to cover.
He just those are the guy that never studies but gets 100 on his tests. He's just smart. He was just so good. I could see him in the weight room like Bobby Miles and Friday Night Lights. Be like, I don't need that.
So,
Yeah,
so,
right.
so Deutsch says Vanek was the first.
hat trick tonight.
Deutsch says Vanek was the first non-North American player on the Gopher roster ever.
Right.
And they had
I mean,
Canadians before.
well,
so.
Did have Canadians?
Yeah, they had.
there
I
was
mean,
a
John
stretch.
Blue was like a goalie in the '80s, and there was
Okay.
always an occasional guy.
Yeah.
Lou Nanny.
Lou Nanny, true, he is a Canadian.
Where's Tyler playing? Did he sign anywhere or
I know he's gotten some games
in the AHL or?
in the ECHL, I think.
Oh, okay.
I thought maybe he was going to get a couple games in the AHL, but he got ECHL games. But I haven't
Okay.
been following too closely.
Right. It's a tough year with those guys. I was thinking about that, as being one of those alumni of, the lower minor leagues. Like, there's a lot of teams that aren't playing. And guys just scrambling to keep their careers alive, That's just not great, but also weird too for those guys. These guys on taxi squads
Yeah.
might never play a game all year. Just sit on a practice team. But whatever.
It's a weird year to have
let's-
to bounce around from city to city, and if you get bumped up and down levels, yeah, that's gotta be rough.
I grew a Chicago guy. I grew up here, so I'm a Hawks fan, and I couldn't believe that the Hawks got Kalanick. I was so happy, and that Philly pretty much just gave him away. And I think he's going to be. I mean, they got some other nice young defensemen there, but I like his game, and I see him being a guy they're as soon as they can get rid of some of their old bums.
He feels like that kind of guy who could be a 5th, 6th, 7th guy, and you could count on him.
Yeah.
You know, he'll steady somebody in the lineup and just do the right stuff, and doesn't have to play every night, and can be a good role player.
Right, he'll play
I think
8
he could run
8
a
or
power
10
play.
years
I
doing
think he
that.
could still
Yeah.
run a power play because his skating is so good. I think he could run a power play in the NHL. Maybe not your first unit quarterback, but
yeah, that's the thing. I think he was maybe overextended trying to do that at Wisconsin, just because it got a little too predictable last year. And that's where they really kind of fell apart, even though they had that talent that everyone knew what was coming. It was the same thing every time. But yeah, he did get better at that, I'll say, over 3 years here. But
yeah,
I still feel like he's got a ways to go with that.
I feel like he got better because he knew how to manipulate to get the guys he was out there with effectively contribute on the power play.
Yeah.
Like once you get that, if you got that much talent around you, it's easy. I remember talking with Don once about the power play, and it's like, if you don't have a D who can shoot the puck and be a threat, your power play will never be elite.
Right.
It'll always be just kind of sputtering along. If you've got guys out there who aren't threats to score, you will never be a dominant power play. You're always just trying to get by. So he's just like, you need that guy who can run it up top and still be a threat.
I just think it looked so forced last year. Everything at Wisconsin looked so forced. We got to get the puck to 8. We got to get the puck to 8, or 15.
Just in the left circle. That's all he stood.
It was like Ovechkin, just hanging out there.
Yep.
Disinterested, and all of a sudden puck coming one time or bang goal. It wasn't going to work that way. And it's amazing how 1 year to the next, how something can look so good and seamless. But yeah, no, I was, just plugging a Wisconsin guy because I like him on my team.
Mm-hmm.
I like him as a player. I think he's a good guy.
Skating. I think he's just a great skater too. So we'll see.
Kind of wish Jack Ramsey worked out with Rockford too, just because he's kind of that character guy.
Alone, him and Munson, man, get them together. Those mustaches are great.
It's too bad Munson had to shave his. It's weird. Minnesota's lost some of their flow. McManus trimmed his hair. Munson trimmed up. Laffer cut his hair.
Reedy's still got his nice flow.
Reedy's still got some flow going. Yeah.
There's some good hair in the Big Ten. I commented all the time because when they put them up on the screen, without helmets, it's wild.
And a lot of them got Lacombe. The years had Lacombe had a big.
Lacombe needs to go home. Cam York's got a good salad up there, redhead salad. There's some good hair in the league. Some of those Euro guys too. Those Finnish guys got some good slick. They have the big part or the big wave over at the blonde.
I noticed
hair.
Ranta's still got quite a bit of coming out of the back of his helmet. He's getting the.
Everybody tries that 1 year at least.
The Euros are big in the slick or the fades, the really powerful fade haircut or the big slick.
It's always clean. It's always clean looking though.
Yes.
It's trimmed and proper always.
There's not a lot of shag to that style.
No.
Viggs, are you going shoulder length eventually here?
I don't know if I'm going shoulder length, but it's getting out there a little bit.
Yeah, the wife liked the hair long, or
yeah, she doesn't mind it. No,
there you go.
Now I just need to find that photo of Viggs with the long hair.
Yeah, when I was in college, when I was playing football, I had the full locks coming out the helmet.
Oh yeah, got to do that with the helmet hair.
Yeah,
did that a year in juniors and then 1 year in college. It's like you got to almost try it once because just to see what it's like. Especially when you wear a helmet. As long as the hair curls up. If you got the flat hair, it's such a
good.
bad look. It's
the Gopher offensive
parents.
linemen right now have the flat hair, and it's like you guys are looking a little too metal rocker.
It's a tough look.
It gets sweaty and stringy and just looks like a mess. We had a good our Jupe and I. We played in a men's league up at Super Rink, and someone from Let's Play Hockey has a photo of us on the bench where I've just got the full hockey hair going on the side. I've got the half visor, and
there's one of our Rubes jerseys right there.
Yeah,
nice.
It's like one of my best hockey photos.
Got to catch you at the right time too. You never know. Like if
you never know,
just off the ice, you're dying. Like
frequent for me.
The right moment when you've been sitting on the bench for a good minute resting before they get you.
Yeah, that's 2 minutes.
I thought the photo I had at you at the final 5 was a little longer, but it's not. That was back when you were sitting right next to the blonde girl. What is her name?
Donna?
No.
All right.
She was a pageant girl even. She was like Miss New Jersey or something like that, wasn't she?
Julie
Robinhard, yes.
I had pretty good hair then. I had pretty good hair that year. It wasn't as bad, as it could have been, but yeah.
Yeah, there it is right there.
Oh my. Hello. Youngster.
I know.
No facial hair.
No facial hair in that one.
Oh, I dread. There's picture of the first couple of years on BTN in the studio, and I didn't have any facial hair, and I'm like, oh my god,
you look like a child.
Get me out of here! Somebody ever show that? So bad. Like my dad though, he's like, he hates the fact that I have facial hair on television. He thinks it's scruffy in this. I said, well, Dad, go look back at the picture of the first couple of years. He does. He's like, oh, yeah, never mind. Keep the hair. I'm like, thanks, Dad. Appreciate it.
Wow.
Thanks a lot. But
wow.
Todd, when are the Badgers arriving? Are they going in extra early, or are they not getting there till Saturday or Sunday?
They were talking about well, I don't know if they're going Saturday night or Sunday morning because I don't think they'll have any ice there on Sunday, obviously, unless they go on the other rink.
Well, they have a practice rink right there. But
because
it sounded like most teams that are playing Sunday are getting there Friday.
Okay.
When the Gophers are getting there Friday.
I've heard that from a couple teams so far. So I'm just curious, George. Are there going to be any overtimes? Prediction time.
Minnesota, Michigan are going to go to overtime.
Minnesota, you mean Minnesota, Ohio State?
Oh
no!
I don't think Penn State, Notre Dame's going to go to.
That's the only upset that's possible in the first. I think everything else is chalk. Only possible is Ohio State playing a decent game and Napier maybe playing 45 save hockey or something like that.
Deutsche says Aranta cut his hair this week, so it's not long anymore.
Disappointing.
The salad is gone.
Playoff cut.
Maybe they're all going to dye it orange again.
Oh my!
That's what they did in 2007.
See them do like a high and tight kind of thing. Just go totally off script and do something.
Shave their heads.
Different. Yeah. That's commitment.
We dye my sophomore year, our whole team dyed our hair blonde. We bleached our hair. It actually worked.
Where are the photos for that?
I was just thinking of that. I'm like, I wonder where that is. I don't know. It's bad. Oh. There are actually more. I have photos actually of the process of it happening, which I would never show anybody. As we're like at one of our guys' houses doing it.
That's how it's done, right?
It's very emasculating stuff.
A lot of drinking involved.
No, well, it was playoff time. I think we were in serious mode. It was like the Sunday after the regular season ended, and then playoffs was that next Friday or whatever. But
see, Jupe, you do these kinds of things to keep people from doing that at that stage of your life. It's not like a bar league thing where you're like, "Hey, bar league, let's dye our hair for the playoffs and have a big party."
Yeah, I I tried to grow a beard for the Bar League playoffs, and I remember
There you go.
specifically a Jason Sprague coming up to me saying, "Is that a fungus on your face?" Because I can't grow anything.
High school and college, you do these things as a team to keep kids from getting into trouble as a leader. That's the idea of this stuff.
I got a good college hockey story from this week. Beautiful weather here in Chicago, 60s. So go for a nice walk. I'm walking, just enjoying myself. And a guy is walking towards me, and I'm like, okay, it's a hockey jersey. It's a dark blue hockey jersey. And then he gets closer and closer. And I got my, AirPods in. So I maybe say this a little louder than I wanted to. I'm like, hey, that's a Nanooks jersey. This guy's walking around Chicago with a Alaska Fairbanks jersey. And I say this to him louder probably than I should have. And he's like, you're the first person to ever know what I have on. And I'm like, he's like, how do you know that? He's like shocked, looked at me like I was crazy. And I'm like, well, I played against them in college. He's like, cheers, man. I think he was walking around with a beer. I'm like, it's middle of the day. It was like 5:30. I'm like, cheers, man. I'm like, you going? I'm like, where's this guy? He's Alaska.
It's not easy times. Not easy times to be an Alaska hockey fan. So
boy. They're trying to save their programs. It seems like all of them are kind of getting donations or.
Well, Fairbanks is a rich program, aren't they?
Where are they going to play though?
Don't they? It's Anchorage. That's the.
One that's really all of them. Even Huntsville is trying to get saved, but where are they going to play? They're out of the WCH. Well, whatever's left of WCH. I don't know if there's really a league
DCHA
anymore.
Possibly.
It's like
my prediction is that Arizona State and Minnesota State go to the NCHC, and Miami and Western go to the CCHA. So you switch those out because I think now people are going to want Arizona State with the new arena in a year. That's a very all of a sudden that becomes a completely valuable team here.
It has to be schools that can afford the travel. So
those teams are already flying out to Colorado and Denver,
Yeah,
I guess NCHC wise.
Yeah. One more.
Maybe not Mankato, but I would think Arizona State would do it.
Yeah, it's going to have to be an even swap though, because the CCHA is at 8 teams right now. I could see.
Well, they could go to 10. They wouldn't mind having more
if it
was regionally made more sense.
I could see Mankato leaving and going to the NCHC.
I just think Arizona State's going to be the fit, and they're going to be a good program. Who's not going to want to go play there with that brand new facility? I would have went there in a second.
Or Quinnipiac.
Yeah, well, no, I wasn't going to take any advice from Patolny. Ever. Todd doesn't know that story. It's not a great whatever.
It's a good story, Cappy. It's a good story.
You can tell it to me Sunday during a break.
Yeah, we can do that. It's a funny story because it's happened during a game, like at a face-off. So
that's the best time to chirp somebody is.
Yeah. So we both had good college careers, so we can laugh that off or whatever. But I don't know. I think that's what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen to Alaska's. That is because are they going to be in the the CCHA? I mean, Fairbanks could pull it off. I mean, they did it for, Yeah,
but those schools made this move to get away from them. So I mean, they've kind of set those boundaries pretty like. This is us, and we'll bring in St. Thomas because they fit in geographically. But
that's another one. Yeah,
Where's St. Thomas going to play? Do we know that yet?
They'll be the CCHA, right?
No, they're going to be the CCHA. But
right.
They're tied into the St. Thomas Academy rink for another couple of years with a lease they signed. But I think they're going to be fundraising to build a new rink.
How small is that, Peace?
Yeah, it's like 2,000. It's not.
It's better than what Arizona State has. They're like
it's better for a couple of years. Yeah.
That can get you by.
So I mean, they're committed there for however many hours of ice and whatnot in games, but I'm sure they have the money. This has been one of my battles with a lot of people in the local media, that St. Thomas has been planning this for many, many years, that they were going to go D1, and it's going to be big for basketball and big for hockey and eventually for football. Like, they've got Big East type aspirations as a higher institution. So they orchestrated this exit from the MIAC and get an exemption to go to D1 quickly, but they have so many donors. Like, they are building $50 billion buildings every 3 years. They have plenty of money.
That's great.
Why doesn't Minnesota have that kind of donor? They do on the academic side. They get a lot of, tons of donation on the academic side.
The U of M fundraising is very controlled. Like, they're doing this $4 billion campaign right now to basically prop up the U so it compete with Wisconsin and Michigan as a research institution, because they're so reliant on state funding right now for that piece of it. So they're trying to prop themselves up so they're less reliant on that. And once that's done, maybe then the guardrails get taken off athletics fundraising. And they've had some turnover at their fundraising positions too. So we'll see what happens, but they have a lot of debt to take care of.
Doesn't everybody? The country's in debt. Ho hum, they just print more. How about,
doesn't work like that with athletics. They have to take a loan.
Low interest, right?
Only so much beer you can sell. You can't make up
and
for
beer,
all
and they usually get screwed on those contracts too. It's not the greatest as it be.
No, it's better. Like, they make an extra couple $500,000 on alcohol sales, but it's not never as much as people would think.
Right.
Deutsch would know this, but did they have to cut a lot of things from their budget? The hockey team, the little stuff, like the player stuff. Sticks,
I think they've had to keep it in check
a little more, not as free, and because I know Ohio State's cut some stuff because of the money and all that kind of stuff. I think they have to watch their budget on that stuff. Like, it's not like wide open. Right. Maybe get a little approval as opposed to they didn't have to in the past.
Right. Like, if a kid wants a special stick rather than the team sponsored stick, you got to be right. Really? You want to get away? You
better be scoring 20 with that thing.
Right. If you're Letary and you're breaking 20 sticks a season, it's like, hey, maybe we should switch to something a little more durable. Huh?
I had
a stick, this nice aluminum one stick we've had in the back room here.
I had a stick break.
Gretzky silver shaft.
Yeah.
I had a stick break counter on the website for a time for like Lettieri's last year. Every time he broke a stick, the counter would go up another one because he was breaking them so often.
Wow.
And he laughed at it. He thought it was funny. So I'm glad he had a good sense of humor, but
well, there's some limitations on things, it's just
right.
Part of it's Title IX, part of it's overall budget. It's complicated.
For sure. I got a good story. Our equipment manager, who's still at Ohio State, at one point late in the season was so mad at us. He did a spreadsheet and listed out everybody's costs, everybody what was costing in sticks. And and this is, graphite, 2-piece sticks.
The start of it. Yeah.
Graphites. This is 2004 or so. And he's pissed and he put out everybody's what they've cost. It was hilarious. Everybody was in the thousands and whatever, except for the goalies, because they got wooden goalie sticks. But yeah, I remember seeing that. I'm like, oh, really? That I was, when you're in college, you see thousands of dollars next to your name. You're like, oh,
yeah.
It was a funny. At the time, it wasn't that funny because he was pissed. But,
I don't think it's that bad as you.
When we were, once the season's over and everyone's back, it was happy-go-lucky. But yeah, I remember that getting the you cost $2,500, you cost whatever, but it was pretty funny. Yeah. Oh man,
dude, that's the stuff you never hear about. That's fun stuff.
I feel like
that is fun
limitations
stuff right
on that one is okay.
It's long gone. Come on.
Yeah, that was a good one. How does Long Island have a Division I hockey team in like 4 minutes? Did you ever, anyone look into that? How did that happen?
And isn't some St. Louis team trying to do the same or something similar?
Lindenwood.
Lindenwood,
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah, I heard that one too. Is that in Missouri?
Yeah, just outside St. Louis.
South St. Louis.
They got a women's D1 team.
Wonder what's going to happen with U of I now too. God, that was like 10 seconds.
They were right there, and then
I don't think it's blown up. I just think it's
it just
moved down the road.
everything crumbled down for a while, and so fundraising just got to a point where it's like, I don't know if we can push ahead.
A freaking pandemic
that.
happened.
Yeah,
son of a bit. We're cursing on the post game show here.
Oh, there's plenty of cursing on the post game.
That's man, that would fit in. I want to shake Nebraska for not having a team yet, because they could be a team in 10 seconds. They have an arena. They would do well. They would sell that play. I don't know if they'd sell out 14,000, but they would. Yeah. Anyways,
Hockey's expensive.
Hockey is expensive.
It's just kind of how it is.
All these Big Ten schools have a lot of money. They have those endowments. I don't really understand what that purpose is. It's like insurance money, isn't it? For disaster.
Safety net.
Yeah.
Right.
And the
but
endowment
it's in the billions, isn't it? In a lot of these schools.
But it's
For the
protected.
school, yeah.
You can't
Right.
free spend your endowment. It's not like a
Of course.
savings account that you can dip into. It's more like an annuity.
I get it, but when is that ever going to be used then?
Well,
that's kind of
they use the interest off of it to pay
sure
scholarships, the stuff that they budget for. But yeah, it's
The
kind
pot
of just
$2 billion
sitting there,
is gonna
right?
Sit there, hovering over all these places forever. And wouldn't this be, if there were ever a time, wouldn't this year be the time? The pandemic once every 100 years that comes along. I'm not in. I don't. It's way above my pay grade. It's just a thought in my head.
I think it's a legit thing.
You've got to have a plan to build that back up over 10
What would it
years
take?
or something like that.
Would it take,
Yeah,
if they borrowed 100 million out of it,
Right.
right? Say what to use in 160 million that you said this year
Yep.
to get that, you could get that interest back on what $1 billion or whatever is in there in what 10 years alone without even having.
But the endowment isn't just for athletics.
It is for everything.
So.
Sure, but are they using it at anything? Do we? I don't. That's I'm asking if you guys know.
They're using it to get the interest to pay for things it's intended for. It's like the person who donated money to that endowment donated so that they could use the interest to pay for this scholarship or fund this building or this maintenance.
Right.
Like
I just think this would be the year. It's never going to get used. If it didn't get used this year for anything, whether it's sports or anything, when would it ever, at least dipped into, not spent at all, but, dipped into or whatever. That's all I am.
see a lot more schools doing the so-and-so men's hockey coach as an endowed position, that basically that a lot of the salary comes from.
It's from the interest of that.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
So
no, I you guys, I figured would know more about it. I'm just
Viggs knows all. He has access to all.
like UW has a athletics, and I don't quote me on the numbers here because I'm just going off what's in my head. I think 109, or at least before this last school year, they had 190 million in a reserve fund just for athletics. And 110 million of that was in endowments for scholarships. So that other 80 million was, some of it was directly for this facility project or this facility project, things that are on the
end
books.
zone project.
Things that they're going
field.
to be doing over the next 5-10 years. And then there's just some of it that's rainy day fund. And that's what they're tapping into right now. But
are they okay?
Gonna exceed that what
Sure.
they have in there.
That's when your donors say unrestricted funds for fiscal year 21 versus someone who's saying I'm donating to the Lou Nanny scholarship, where the U is trying to and endow every hockey scholarship under one name. That's what they're trying to do. Like, this is the John Mayasich scholarship. Do you want to contribute to that specifically? That'll be for one student athlete every year. That's kind of the idea of that stuff.
Okay. Well, next year's going to be that. That's the other thing. Say 3 guys return on full scholarship. You can have 21 scholarships.
Yep. They're going to have to come up with money with that somehow.
There you go.
That's the rub.
Or they say, oh, no, sorry, we can't. We're not. Nobody's giving us money to have, or our AD is saying, nope, you can't have 3 extra scholarships this year. I mean, I'm saying
you could pay your own way and come back and play.
Right. This school, or we can only give you a half. So you want to come back and be in grad school? Hey, we'll pay for half of your grad school, your 5th year. I guess that's something like, but I bet most will not. I think it's something that will be a positive if they honor you for a 5th year. I don't know.
Deutsch thinks it's going to be a little while until they add hockey to any kind of large school. And he's also saying that, scholarships, travel, facility, and those costs would be very different at a Big Ten school versus, like Long Island.
Right. Well, I'm not going to believe anything he says unless he comes on here.
I think travel at a Big Ten school is different than the U-Haul League.
Right. Totally.
Right?
Sure.
I mean, when you're in the U-Haul League, I saw the athletic story on an ECHL team last year. It was just like, wow. So you got a 60-hour bus ride, and then you got to do a skate with the season ticket holders when you get back after McDonald's.
Oh, do you want a story? I got a good. You want a good?
Well, let's hear it.
Tell story.
Oh yeah.
So, I think I got a couple, but this one's probably the most ridiculous. I am playing for the Johnstown Chiefs.
Nice.
Yeah. Oh my, what a time.
Honor. It was an honor.
And our coach was Frank Anzalone.
Oh.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
No, not well, whatever.
No.
He coached with gardening gloves on at practice. But so we played at home on Saturday night, and we were playing Toledo at 2 p.m. on a Sunday. And we did not bus there that night. We stayed at home, got on our bus that didn't have sleepers or anything on it at about 6 a.m., 7 a.m., whatever it was. Got on the bus, guys were laying on the ground, sleeping, whatnot. We get to a rest stop, was for pregame meal at like 10 a.m. and it was McDonald's. So I'm sitting there. What do you get? I guess I'll get pancakes. I'm not going to have an egg McMuffin and get all fried, like carbohydrates, it's like eating pasta, right? Or something.
Yeah. Pancakes.
Get pancakes. And then we drive on to Toledo, and this dump of a rink. I don't know if you guys ever been the old Toledo place. Like, the glass was only a foot and a half higher than the boards. And then your bench was too short. They added a seat to the end of it, and you literally sat next to a fan. If you were the last seat on the bench, you sat next to a fan. Literally could say, hey, what's going on? Literally next to you. And they pumped us 7-1. We got back on the bus. And Frank Anzalone, we stopped at a gas station. This is professional hockey, right? We stopped at a gas station to pick up snacks. He says, you have a 2-beer maximum. You can only have 2 beers. So my one buddy who's a veteran goes, and who's now a high-profile guy in the NHL, goes to some of the young guys, says, are you guys going to drink beers? They're like, no. Here, buy two. He had 10 for himself because he had got 4 guys to get him 2 beers.
Oh.
And we're sitting playing cards in the back of the bus on the way home from Toledo for 8 hours, wherever the fuck the drive was, and thinking, this is my life right now. McDonald's pregame meals on a Sunday, and 2 beer maximums on the way home with your $30 per diem a day gig. And luckily I got traded to Idaho midway through that season, and life became much better. Every trip was flying other than a 4-hour bus ride to Utah. Everything else was Southwest flying. So yeah, night and day.
How'd you like Idaho as the state?
Awesome.
I've never been there. It seems like a great place.
Here's another, another story.
Here we go.
Stories? No, so I ended up going to Idaho that year, but at the end of my senior year, I got back to the hotel in Albany after you guys at Wisconsin had beat us. I have a voicemail in my hotel room from the Idaho coach already asking me to come play there. Like, it was waiting for me. I'm like sad from the thing. And he's like, we need you. And I'm at this point, I had a pretty year. I'm like, I was hoping to get like a ATO in the AHL hopefully or something, but it was the lockout season coming. So there was just nothing going on.
Oh,
so
yeah.
So I sitting there deciding once that became non-factor, either Idaho or San Diego. And I had my former teammate from Ohio State in San Diego. They were the number one team in the East Coast League. And then I had Dan Ellis, goalie, played in the NHL. I played with him in Omaha in junior. And he was trying to get me to come to Idaho because Idaho was shorthanded. They had injuries, they had call-ups, they needed bodies. But they were like third in the league division, and they just didn't look. And Dan was going up and down from Utah in the A, so they didn't know if they were going to have him. Well, it turns out I decided to go to San Diego because they were the number one team in the league. I had my buddy from college there. We get swept in 3 games by Alaska in the first round of the playoffs. I had played 2 regular season games, got healthy scratched in the playoffs, didn't even play in the playoffs. Idaho, Dan Ellis comes down for the playoffs. They win the whole effing thing. They won the whole damn thing. He came down and was the MVP of the playoffs, and they won the whole East Coast Hockey League that year.
The choices we make.
I still kick myself worse. Kick myself for that choice. And then knowing what I knew, I didn't know how awesome Idaho was. And then being there 2 years later playing, I was like, oh my God, it made it worse knowing what I had missed. The combination of all of that. Their arena was unbelievable. It was built on a hotel in downtown Boise. A beautiful place. Like Boise was like this valley in a valley of mountains. Just a beautiful a lot of skiing. And their arena was built on the back of a hotel, and the hotel, the suite level, the back side was rooms. If you had a hotel room there, you would have had a suite at the arena.
Wow.
It was like a 6,000 seat arena. We'd get 4,000 or 5,000 a game at least.
Let's get a regional out there. Come on.
I couldn't believe it when I got there, and that has made that story even worse for me knowing what I finally knew. But
I almost took a job in Idaho right out of college. I was interviewing for newspapers, and there was a paper in Idaho that I was like, maybe it'd be nice. I don't know. And I was like a finalist for the job, and I was ready to like, all right, I'm going to pack up and move out to Idaho and try this thing. And they hired somebody local, and they're like, sorry, good luck. Enjoy Minnesota. But I was this close to like packing my bags.
Well, you've been in Boise?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could have been covering Cappy.
I could have covered Cappy, Boise State Athletics. They're like,
Blue Field.
Great growth opportunity. Yeah.
Blue Field.
Todd, did you ever have a chance to go out further? You've always been kind of local there in Wisconsin. Have you ever had the chance to?
Does Green Bay count?
Ooh.
Yeah, it's an NFL city.
Brown County Stadium.
AP Style Guide says if you say, NFL city, you can just do Green Bay. You don't have to do Green Bay, Wisconsin.
I actually kind of consider it lucky that I've never had to leave Wisconsin for a job. I mean, I
haven't left Minnesota.
I've never really had any like desire to. I like traveling, but not like I'm happy here. My base is here. I don't need to be too far away from that for anything. So yeah, I worked 4 years in Green Bay after college, and then came back here to Madison. So that was I've been pretty damn lucky in everything so far, but especially in that. But no,
all right, guys, it's 12:40.
Oh my God.
I think this is the new record.
When you have 2 guests, it's
2 guests. You got to make room. Got to make room for everybody.
And I think Deutsch is still watching.
We kept Deutsch with us. That's good.
Hey, Deutsch could have joined us.
Man, I'm gonna have to give him a little bit of a
I think you should.
time on Sunday if I see him.
Social distancing, though. Social distancing. Don't get him in trouble.
He can come to the door of the booth. I don't know. I guess Notre Dame's booth is amazing from what I've heard.
Yes.
I've only been in the radio booth there. Like I've been there a bunch of times. Just I would just drive over there to see Ohio State play Notre Dame, you know, when they'd go there. It's an hour and a half drive, and that place is awesome. And then going to see the facilities last year when we did the features in the fall. I mean,
they built basically a full TV studio or like a control studio in the football stadium when they added the suites and everything on the others they had everything on one side. They wrapped around basically on the other side of the stadium, and you can see it when you're walking past there. It's like they run all their productions for basketball, for hockey out of this.
See, they do that at TCF, don't they? VX? TCF's got the big studio.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know how they're going to have us set up on Sunday, to be honest with you, because you know when I've seen the games there with NBC, Kendall was not
she's on the other side. Yeah, she was on the other side of the rink at concourse level. Yeah.
Yeah. So I honestly have I'm going to ask these questions, I think, before we get there.
I mean, the thing is
then we've added Michelle McMahon is going to be there doing rinkside reporting too. So maybe that means me and Ben will be in the booth together, and she'll be, I don't know.
That TV booth, I think, is bigger than some of my apartments have been in my life. So, I mean,
right. But if NBC's not doing it, is BTN going to do it? Because, it's optics or everything, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I mean, maybe they have one of those divider, the clear glass, and put the camera right on it, so it's it doesn't look like.
Oh no, I hope that's the case, because it's just so much better to. At least you can point at the guy like, hey, I want to hop in or that. I mean, we were doing. We had I think I was telling you, we had FaceTime. We had iPads with FaceTimes, and I'd wave at Chris like, hey, I want to get in there. Like that you had to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, they're doing that for everything. That was the new way or whatever. So yeah, we'll see what happens on Sunday. But yeah, especially with Ben, we've never worked together. So we got to get our skating legs under us early on there on a bright early 11 a.m. Central start.
I love that. It's gonna be wall to wall hockey all day.
Oh, it's
why I like regional weekend. Regional weekend's always my favorite of the year. It's like Friday to Sunday. It's just the best.
And it's a Sunday, right? So you're like, that's great. You can pop in.
Not even getting dressed, just chill.
Right. Oh, 3 o'clock. It's you got the late afternoon football game for the Gophers. 3 p.m. game.
I like the times that the Gophers are playing. Yeah. So. All right, time to go to bed, guys.
All right.
I posted the podcast like an hour and a half ago.
That's great. Love it.
Yeah, I was sitting there doing quick editing. The audio part. The audio part was.
I gotta save my voice for Sunday. Right. Talking too much.
Yeah, great. We killed Cappy.
You better talk to Starman and figure out what kind of Lipton tea and honey regimen do you need to do. Yeah.
Oh man, I'll be doing Mountain Dews. I'm not a coffee guy or anything, so
we just lost his picture too. Oh, there he's back.
Oh, there we go. My battery's getting low.
I wonder why.
We already lost your AirPods already.
iPhone, Mr. iPhone, Mr. iPhone.
Yeah, figure out that name.
All right, guys. Thanks for the great show. It's always fun.
Yes.
Yeah, you bet.
Awesome. Thank you for humbling us. When pandemic ends, GPL will buy you beers or pizzas.
Miller Lite. I'm easy.
I'll take pizza.
I like punch
or pizza too. Pizza works.
Todd, I owe you at least 1 or 2 punch pizzas.
Ooh.
I'll be there.
Hopefully I'll see you guys at the arena next year. At both would be nice.
Yeah,
I hope so.
No doubt.
All right, guys. Have a good night. Thanks for being on.
Do a game with him on Fox. That would be fun.
Oh boy.
I know you got to have your Wisconsin alumni there, but I'd love to go do a game with Brian. Brian's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, all right, guys.
Have a good one.
Later.
Peace.
See ya.